It's the ultimate goal here. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Okay, there we go. We at least have one. Commissioner Taylor. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Commissioner Solis.
Morning.
This is a monumentous occasion for you two. So before we do anything, as is usually the case, we're going to call for the invocation. Father Tom Taney, St. Paul's Episcopal Church will lead us in prayer. If you'll all rise, please.
Let us pray. Almighty God, send down upon these county commissioners the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people. And Almighty God, to whom we must account for all our powers and privileges, guide the people of the United States and this community in the election of officials and representatives, that by faithful administration and wise laws, the rights of all may be protected and our nation and communities may be enabled to fulfill your purposes. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. And then I'm torn because Commissioner Taylor and Commissioner Solis both lead us this morning. Okay, come on, ladies then. Commissioner Taylor, please.
Did you notice he still calls me a lady, right? He hasn't graduated to this century yet.
No.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And there you are. And which century are we in? Okay. Well, that was an on-purpose question. All right, County Manager, you want to lead us off, or you want me to muddle along here? I think our next move is to approve the agenda.
Yes,
And,
Commissioner. I'll take you through the agenda changes.
Yes. So we'll start with Commissioner Solis. Do you have any adjustments to the agenda or ex parte?
Chair, we have a number of agenda changes before we go.
Oh, well, then you go ahead and do yours.
Sorry. Okay, we have several agenda changes today. The first is add-on item 11N. This is a recommendation to authorize a budget amendment and accept the State Housing Initiative Partnership Disaster Assistance Award in the amount of $344,700 to assist eligible Collier County households whose primary residence sustained damage as a result of Hurricane Ian to pay their insurance deductibles and authorize one temporary full-time employee, SHIP grant funded. This is at staff's request. We have an add-on item 4G. Proclamation declaring November 8th, 2022 as the Zoo Chief Foundation Day in Collier County. This is being added at Commissioner Taylor's request. We're continuing item 11A to the December 13th, 2022 BCC meeting. This item was continued from September 27th as well. This is a recommendation to approve the Cycle 11A Conservation Collier active acquisition list and direct staff to pursue projects recommended within the A category in sequential order, funded by Conservation Collier Land Acquisition Fund. And this is being continued at Commissioner McDaniel's request. Continue item 11H to a future board meeting. This is a recommendation to accept an update as to the implementation of the East Naples Development Plan and the US 41 zoning overlay designed to add design standards in accordance with the plan's recommendations. This is being moved at Commissioner LaCastro's request. Move item 16A6 to become item 11O. This is a recommendation that the Board of County Commissioners accept an after-the-fact donation of sand and sand transportation and delivery from Stewart Materials and Rapid Trucking, respectively, received by Collier County in advance of Hurricane Ian's landfall in the total amount of $2,275.50. This is being moved at Commissioner Saunders' request. Move item 16A11 to become 11P. This is a recommendation to approve the cooperative procurement and use of the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority contract number 21-980369, Florida Electric Transit buses with charging and associated equipment for the purchase of 30, 35, and/or 40-foot electric buses for the Collier area transit system. This is being moved at Commissioner McDaniel's request. One final note. Item 11M related to the proposed Rock the Red USA event. We were notified that the event sponsor is going to host this at a private location. However, we are proposing to leave item 11M on the agenda so we can have the discussion about the appropriate placement of events at the sports complex, particularly those of large size and amplified sound.
And in the event that they aren't successful where they're going to go, they'll come back to the park.
That's correct. Second, I'm sorry, we also have one time certain item, that's 11I, to be heard at 11 a.m., and this is a recommendation to approve a Collier County Tourist Development Council TDC Category B Promotional Funds Grant application for the U.S. Pickleball Open Pickleball Championship for FY23.
Okay.
With that, we have no other changes.
Now I can go to Commissioner Solis.
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Quick question. I don't see item 9A on the change sheet. Has something changed?
No, sir. Correct, but it was published already with the continuance, so it didn't have to go onto the change sheet. But we can announce it if at your pleasure. That's item 9A and 9B. Both are the zoning and land use petitions relative to the siting of the David Lawrence Center. They failed. They were continued by the Planning Commission, and there was no quorum at the date that it was continued to. Therefore, the item did not make its way out of the Planning Commission and had to be continued off of this agenda to a future date to be determined.
Well, since it's my turn, I'm going to say something. 5 years ago, we started a community process to bring together the stakeholders in the community to try to do things differently in Collier County, because we can and we should. And that culminated in this board approving unanimously the Mental Health and Addiction Strategic Plan. The number one priority of which was the construction of a central receiving facility. That was a promise to the community. It was a promise to families, to children, to the business community, the schools. I mean, it was a promise that I feel that the board made to the community. And unfortunately, this was continued. I'm not sure why it was continued at this point, but it was continued, so it won't be heard today. And I won't be here to continue to start the cheers and at least do what I can do to make this happen. So I'm asking the board to make good on that promise. Yeah. We need to make good on the promise that we made to the community. So with having said that, and I hope the next board does that, because it's that important. Having said that, I have no other changes to the agenda, and I have no disclosures on the consent agenda or the summary agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I know this is a little bit out of order, but can I make a comment on?
Of course, because I'm gonna unless you have something.
Yeah, I just want to make a
profound
comment
say.
on what Commissioner Solis had said. And obviously, this is his last meeting.
Right.
But I just want to say that we would not be talking about mental health issues had it not been for Commissioner Solis.
Right.
We would have perhaps had some conversations, some discussions, but we would never have gotten into the real important issues and solutions to the mental health problems in this community and the impact of those problems on our sheriff's department and on our jail, and more importantly on our citizens, those that are suffering from mental illness and those that have to deal with their family members or their neighbors or other folks that are suffering from that. So I just want to, for the record, say we would not be here talking about this issue. The Planning Commission would not have a zoning issue to be dealing with. We would not have, I believe it says, is it $20 million?
25.
$25 million in the bank to fund this, had it not been for Commissioner Solis. So I just want to make that record very clear.
And I again wanted to say as well, our county manager shared it was more semantics than anything for the continuance. The planning commission had an enormously long hearing on this, and then they weren't able to attain a
It really didn't, but we can talk about that some other time.
come see, come saw. They weren't able to make a quorum on the last vote. I also, like Commissioner Saunders, want to thank you. Early in my tenure as county commissioner, I knew we had an opioid pandemic going on around us. And so I was in Tallahassee and I was in DC. I was with the folks in HHS talking, because one of the things that we need is money. We need to have money in order to support this. And so I'm talking to the Southeast representative of HHS, and she says, well, Commissioner, what's your mental health plan say about this and this and this? And I'm like, well, I don't know. But when I find, I'll get the answer for you. And a little bit later on in the conversation, she said, Commissioner, what's your mental health plan say about that, and that? And I'm like, well, I'm not sure, ma'am, but when I get those reviewed, I'll come back to you. Well, as soon as I got out of that meeting, I called our then county manager, and I said, what's our mental health plan say about this, this, and this? And what's our mental health plan say about that, and that? We didn't have a mental health plan. And from me to you, thank you, because as Commissioner Saunders said, if you hadn't grabbed onto that and pushed through, joined the community, brought the community leaders together and developed that mental health plan, we wouldn't be having this conversation today about that expansion. So go while you're going away, feel somewhat at peace that though the job's not done, we wouldn't be here today if it hadn't have been for your efforts. And that's a thank you from me.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll add something real quick. Mental health is very important to me, and I really respected what Commissioner Solis has done. What I would say is, unless you're moving to North Korea, I think you're still a citizen. So if you think that the county, this commission, is definitely not following what I certainly agree with what you have started and championed, I expect to see you at that podium. You only have 3 minutes. But I hope you will continue, and I know you will continue to be an involved, active citizen and not let all of the great things that you have championed die by others' hands. And so I look forward to continuing to get your counsel, your mentorship, your advice to this committee as a citizen, because it's just as valuable and it's respected and appreciated.
I'll be around.
Commissioner Taylor.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that. Did you see how Commissioner Saunders took away $5 million from your project already? It went to $20 million, or did everybody catch that? We're already making changes.
Commissioner Taylor.
There's a reason that the majority of taxpayers in this county agreed to tax themselves for this mental health receiving facility. It's because of your work, sir.
Yeah.
It's because you had the courage to bring awareness to this unspoken illness that affects all of us in one way or another. And it is a testimony to the will of the people that this goes through, because they have spoken. They've decided they're going to tax themselves. So we are on the cutting edge of so much in this country. I remember campaigning for the sales tax where Commissioner McDowell, you were sitting in the audience, and I remember someone saying, oh, this isn't about, we don't really need a mental health facility. And I believe it was at the public library at Orange Blossom, and people stood up and said, what? And I remember again and again, Commissioner McDaniel, how you talked about the sheriff needs this. This costs us money. If we don't do this, this is going to cost us more money. The sheriff needs that. I'll never forget that. So the table's set, and you and I, sir, are going to sit and watch, and hopefully the right decision is made. But thank you. Thank you for your advocacy.
And you're absolutely correct, Commissioner Taylor. I had the honor of riding with our sheriff after the Christmas parade the first year in '16, a month after I was elected, and even though there's a dumb look on my face, I am paying attention while people are talking. And as Kevin's riding me back to my car, he announces that he's in charge of the largest mental institution in Collier County, and that's our jail. No less than 30% and oftentimes higher than 50% of that population suffering from some type of mental wellness issue or substance abuse. And that's when I started on the road for the money, hunting the money in Tallahassee and DC, and then you grabbed on, and because without a plan, you're lost. And so thank you again, sir. We won't belabor that. Well, we might belabor it some more, but Commissioner LaCastro, how are you doing this morning, sir?
Doing great. I have no changes and no disclosures.
Wow, outstanding. How about Commissioner Saunders?
I have no disclosure and no changes as well.
And Commissioner Taylor?
I have no disclosures, and I'd like to move 16F1 to the regular agenda, please.
And what, pray tell, is that?
I'm sorry, 16F4. Pardon me.
F4.
I misspoke. Yes.
Somebody read that off. I don't have the agenda. My computer went.
16F4 is a recommendation to receive information concerning an agreement between United Soccer Leagues LLC and PARA SFM LLC concerning negotiating rights for a potential stadium use agreement at the Paradise Coast Sports Complex. This will become item 11Q.
Thank you.
And I'm okay with that. And I myself have no disclosures nor any changes. So with that, I'll call for a motion for the acceptance and approval of the agenda as has been amended.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the agenda as has been amended. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Same sign, same sound, so moved. Now, simply because I'm the chair and we've just accepted the agenda, I'm going to adjust it. And before we go forward, we have a couple of presentations that I would like to do. And so if the board would join me, please, we're going to go down front here, and we have a couple of prizes for our colleagues.
What?
A couple of prizes for our colleagues.
Prizes. I got a watch.
I'm getting into the prize box. We're gonna put a rose between a bunch of thorns first, in the middle. And this is for our esteemed colleague, Commissioner Taylor. And it's in grateful appreciation for years of outstanding leadership, service, and devotion to the citizens of Collier County and her tenure here. Yes, ma'am. I'd allow you the speech, but I know you take advantage sometimes. No speeches. Did you get a picture of us yet, dear? Yeah. All of us?
All of us? One step?
Okay. Now, Commissioner Taylor, if you would switch with Commissioner Solis. What a pretty tie. It's got a little paisley thing going on. Talk about what century we're in.
No, that's nice.
Is that coming back now?
I waited long enough and they're back in stock.
Very fashionable.
And again, this is Commissioner Solis's last actual formal duty as a commissioner and a board. And in grateful appreciation for your years of outstanding leadership, service, and devotion to the citizens of Collier.
Paisley tie strip.
Okay.
It's funny, somebody told me the latest moving out of state. Hope rest of the term, right?
Okay.
Lost his state citizenship.
All right, we have some proclamations that we,
First, item 2B, we need a motion to approve the October 11th, 2022 BCC meeting minutes.
oh, yes, forgive me. It's been, somebody second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We accept the minutes from our October 11th meeting. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, same sound, so moved. Now we can do the proclamations.
Yes. Item 4A is a proclamation designating November 10th, 2022 as Diabetes Awareness Day in Collier County and to recognize the achievements of John Reisman, to be accepted by Tammy Balavage and Julia Reisman.
There we go. You're the actual recipient. Yeah. Absolutely, yep. Go on the line, shake hands, questions.
Hey, congratulations.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we'll get you in a minute. You gotta get your picture, to it, and then we'll put you to the podium. There we go. Now you may go on, ma'am, go to the microphone. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here today. My name is Julia Reisman. I accepted this proclamation on behalf of my father, John Reisman. Both of us live with type 1 diabetes, and it's an honor to be here today representing Help a Diabetic Child, which is a nonprofit here in Naples, primarily serving Collier County children and young adults who are struggling emotionally and financially with their type 1 diabetes. I'm very grateful for Tammy, my boss, founder of Help a Diabetic Child, and my father, who, with their gracious appreciation for the cause and generous funding, we are able to serve over 3,000 children in Florida and across the United States to ease the burden for them emotionally and financially. So I want to thank all of our commissioners and each and every one of you here today. So thank you.
Thank you, Julia.
Item 4B is a proclamation designating November 13th through 19th, 2022 as International Fraud Awareness Week in Collier County, to be accepted by Mike Harder, Ruben Ramos, and Robin Sheely.
Well, there they are. Absolutely.
Yeah, I like those sweaters. Yeah, those are good sweaters.
Anything with an emblem on it.
Yeah.
Paying fourths. There you go. How about that? Want to say a few words? No? Yes, no, maybe? No, not really. A group photo. Come on, kids. And we have another photo op, you okay? Yeah. Well, I saw a red phone. There we go. How about that? Thank you. Thank you all very much for doing what you do.
Item 4C is a proclamation designating November 16th through 23rd, 2022 as Farm City Week in Collier County, to be accepted by the Farm City Barbecue Board of Directors and Organizing Committee.
Ah. Lady, haven't seen you in a minute. How are you? Who gets to hold the proclamation? I'm sorry, Miss Elliott. I'll mess it up, I'm sorry. Oh, really? Here we go. Want to say a few words, please?
Commissioners, thank you. For the record, I'm Ellie Creer, and I'm representing the Farm City Barbecue Board of Directors, as well as our receiving charities, which would be Youth Leadership Collier, Collier County Junior Deputies, Kiwanis 4-H, and the Immokalee Foundation. This proclamation represents the support that we all in this community give to agriculture, and we appreciate your doing this for us. However, you may already know that we did cancel Farm City Barbecue this year. At the time, it was a very difficult decision. We were all set to be in Cambier Park, and Cambier Park was unable to host us due to the hurricane. Beyond that, multiple members of our event committee and our volunteer boards of directors lost their homes. Law enforcement was stressed to the limit, and we felt on behalf of the Farm City Barbecue Board of Directors that it was just not the right time to be throwing a celebratory party for agriculture, although we will continue to support it.
Amen.
So I'm here today to tell you that November 22nd, 2023, we will be back bigger and better. We look forward to your support. We look forward to those of you who are there to serve with us, and thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ellie.
Item 4D is a proclamation designating November 2022 as National Hospice and Palliative Care Month, to be accepted by the following representatives of Avow Hospice, Naples, Florida: Mark Belland, Community Liaison; Jeffrey Alexander, Director of Business Development; and Rebecca Gayetan, Chief Clinical Officer.
You again?
Hey, Becca, how you doing? Hey, nice to see you tonight, right? Yeah. Mix a few drinks tonight. I'll be drinking.
Outstanding. Thank you. Mark, you want to say a few words, or one of you? If you wish, please.
Good morning. On behalf of Avow, I'd like to say thank you very much for continuing to support our mission. We currently are celebrating our 40th anniversary of servicing the Collier County area for hospice and palliative care. We currently have about 550 patients that we take care of on a daily basis in one of those two programs. And without the support of the community for events like Star Tenders tonight, 5 to 6, Bone Hook, little plug for Annalise. Without those kinds of things and the community being so supportive, we wouldn't be nearly as successful as we are at helping with end-of-life care. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Item 4E is a proclamation designating November 2022 as Family Court Awareness Month in Collier County. This proclamation will be mailed to the recipient.
Well, then there we are. I have it here, so you know.
Item 4F is a proclamation declaring November 22nd, 2022 as Senate President Pasadomo Day in Collier County. Represented today by her husband, John Pasadomo, and her daughter, Francesca Pasadomo. A framed copy will also be presented to Senate President Pasadomo at the Collier County Legislative Delegation meeting on December 6th.
Woo!
of course, please. Please, please, please.
Give her a hug.
Yes. Line up right in the middle, kids. There you go. There you go. Oh, that's what we like. Okay, Francesca, it's all yours. You want that before her or after? After. Okay.
Good morning. Francesca Passidomo, daughter of Kathleen Passidomo, here with my father, John Passidomo. My mom has made a commitment when she asked to assume leadership of the Florida Senate 3 years ago to bring back a supermajority to drive her Republican caucus's legislative agenda from 2022 through 2024. And true to her word, my mom is somewhere on an I-4 off-ramp this morning, dodging a semi-trailer trucks, enthusiastically waving campaign signs, urging passing motorists to vote for her Senate colleagues. Mom has therefore asked me and Dad to tell you how honored she is to receive this truly extraordinary recognition and how disappointed she is that she cannot be here personally due to her prior commitment. Mom spent 30 years, and I've personally seen this and experienced this, fighting local civic, community, and charitable causes while raising 3 mischievous daughters with some help from my dad, and managing a thriving law practice before her 2010 election to the Florida House. The service prepared my mom to serve the people of Collier County and the rest of Southwest Florida in the Florida Senate. It daily reminds her, and I also can tell you this with all certainty, that she is beholden to the people of Collier County for the unique position of trust that she is now in. I know she looks forward to vigorously working with the Board of County Commissioners over the next 2 years to prove herself worthy of that trust. Again, thank you on behalf of the entire Passidomo family, on behalf of my mom, Kathleen Passidomo. We are so deeply honored and grateful.
Thank you, Francesca.
Before you leave.
Oh, they're not leaving, they're just going to sit down. Do you want them standing?
No, that's okay. I just didn't want you to walk out of the room just quite yet. Because I wanted to say a couple words and why I thought this was so important to do this. Most people don't realize how important of a position the Senate President is in the state of Florida. I like to say it's the second most powerful position in the state. Some people say it's the third most powerful behind the Speaker of the House. But I think the Senate President is a much more powerful position. And we've only had 3 senators who have resided in the city of Naples or in Collier County, I think in the whole history of the state of Florida. I was the first one. I didn't get anywhere in the Senate. Then Garrett Richter became the next senator, and he became the Senate pro tem, which is sort of like the vice chairman of the Senate. And now we have Senator Passidomo, who will be the Senate president. And what that means is she will control the agenda for the state of Florida for the next 2 years. She will have a tremendous amount of say in what happens over the next 2 years out of Tallahassee. That's good for Collier County because she lives here. But more importantly, that's great for the state of Florida. I served under 5 Senate presidents. I've worked under 5 or 6 more Senate presidents since I got out of the Senate. And I can tell you without any reservations, Senator Passidomo will be by far the best Senate president this state has ever had. I say that, and really in all seriousness,
Right.
because she loves this county, she loves this state, and I know she is fully dedicated to doing the best things for this state. And I've listened to her speeches, and I can tell you she's going to be a tremendous leader. So we're all proud to have her representing us. And November 22nd, just for the public consumption, we've designated that as Senator Passidomo Day in Collier County. That's the day she becomes a Senate president. Very significant, and thank you for sharing your mother and sharing your wife
Yes.
with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All said, sir. Andy, you want to say a
Yeah,
word?
I just wanted to say, you know, we are so blessed to have Kathleen Pasadomo as part of our community. At one time, as a young lawyer, I was a law partners with Kathleen, and it's not surprising to me that she is now the Senate President because of the way just she is with people. I mean, she's just you know, I learned a lot, I think, as a young lawyer, just being around her. The energy, the way that she related to people, especially to me. I mean, she was always upbeat and looking to the future, and we're just so blessed to have her give up her time and time with her family to pursue this, and great things to come even still. So thank you.
Commissioner LaCastro.
I want to add something a little bit different. I think it goes without saying all the things that Senator Pasadomo has done and represents this community. But Mr. Pasadomo, John, I just want to say, I want to recognize you as well. You know, you've been sort of maybe the quiet, action-oriented person in Collier County, and I've worked with you on a few things, and I've also seen, even well before I was a commissioner, how involved you've been in this community. So, you know, you and your wife are an amazing powerhouse, but I don't want it to be lost that, you know, while she's up in Tallahassee getting all the accolades and the plaques and everything like that, you, my friend, sir, have just been an incredible leader in this community, have rallied the troops, so to say, you know, from my military background, and it has not gone unnoticed. And so we need more citizens like you to step forward and take action and do all the things that you have accomplished together with your wife, but also on your own. So I commend you for all that you're doing in the community and the people that you have pulled together to represent, to have good things happen right here in Collier County as a citizen. So thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said. And in an effort to not repeat, I'm just going to say thank you. Before we go on, I'm going to announce the Artist of the Month, if I may. I usually like to do that in advance before the room clears out.
We have one more proclamation. Sorry, it's the add-on.
Oh, the add-on. Forgive me.
Item 4G is a proclamation declaring November 8th, 2022 as Zucchi Foundation Day in Collier County. This will be accepted by Commissioner Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you. Just for everyone's edification. Oh, that's good. Zucchi is a worldwide Buddhist organization based on the East Coast. Really, their base is Taiwan, and they have units all over the world. And their whole purpose is to bring solace and cash to people that are going through disaster. And in between Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Ian, the Zucchi Foundation has brought almost $1 million to the needy citizens of this county. They are a unbelievably giving and wonderful organization, and we are very lucky to count them as friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor.
Commissioner, can we get a motion to accept the proclamations?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Did we accept the proclamations as presented? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, same sound, so moved.
Now you can do Artist of the Month.
Now we'll do the Artist of the Month. In the back, on the walls, in the back, are the Artist of the Month presentation. We welcome America's Military and First Responders Museum as our November Artist of the Month. Founded in 2006 by a group of veterans, it was operated as a mobile display museum. In 2011, the Naples Airport Authority offered space and the museum began to attract interest. The Naples Airport is a fitting location for the museum as it was initially built for pilots training during World War II. More than 12,000 historical artifacts from the Revolutionary War forward, such as weapons, uniforms, medals, ribbons, and handwritten letters and posters, have been generously donated. The museum now has an amazing opportunity for a new building adjacent to the Naples Airport. The new space not only allows the museum to properly display all the memorabilia, but honors those brave first responders who very often started their career in the military and then pursued their second career serving our local community. The commitment to expand the vision is reflected in the name America's Military and First Responders Museum. The museum appreciates the public's dedicated support to honor our military veterans, especially in these dynamic and uncertain times. And if you have a moment, please, before you go, please take a look back there. There's some pretty interesting artwork. So, and with that, we'll go to our next presentation, I think.
Commissioners, if it's okay with all of you, let's take the business of the month before we have Dan go into his, we'll just flip 5A and 5B.
Okay.
Okay. 5B is a presentation of the Collier County Business of the Month for November 2022 to Guadalupe Center. The award will be accepted by Don Montecalvo, President and CEO. Also attending is Bethany Sawyer, Vice President of Membership, the Greater Naples Chamber of Commerce. Hi. Oh, Mr. Dalby's here too.
Yes.
Wait, he's the favorite?
When you get to the mic.
You've chosen poorly. You've chosen poorly. Congratulations. Congratulations.
How are you, sir? Note that it's LaCastro that's speaking on the microphone.
Oh, that was me.
If we all move, it'll mess her up.
She says, get ready, everybody move to the right. Move to the right.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3, right. Now move to the left. Everybody move to the left.
This is her last day, can you tell?
All right, we'll be good.
Here we go. Dawn, you gonna say a few words, please? Or Michael, either one.
Good morning, and thank you so much for this honor. On behalf of the Board of Directors, the children that we serve, and our teachers and staff at the Guadalupe Center, I gotta remember where I work, Guadalupe Center, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the Commissioners for this honor as Business of the Month. So often nonprofits are not often thought of as businesses, but we are, and the Guadalupe Center has been serving Immokalee for nearly 40 years. We employ over 300 full-time and part-time employees. We serve more than 1,750 children in the community, and we have over a $12 million budget. And so we're very proud to be one of the leading businesses in Immokalee. We have the daunting mission to break the cycle of poverty, and we have been doing that by providing high-quality education to the children of Immokalee and making sure that we help them meet the milestones they need. We start at the young age of 6 weeks to 5 years old in our early childhood education program, where we serve 20% of the children under age 5 in Immokalee. We also have our K through 2, and we make sure that those children are kindergarten ready by the time they get into the public schools. And then we serve our K through 2 students, where we serve over 850 children, making sure that they learn to read, so by 3rd grade they're ready to learn, they can read to learn. And then we have our high school tutor corps program, which is a college preparatory program. We have 121 children in that program that we make sure that they have the skills to go to college and become first-generation college graduates. We have we stay with them through college, and we have a 94% college graduation rate, which we're very proud of. So we appreciate your support. We have just opened up our 4th campus in Immokalee, the Van Otterloo Campus for Learning, this past June, and we invite you all to come see it. It is state-of-the-art. I put it up against any early learning center in not only in the state but in the country. And so we hope that you'll come out and visit us and see the great work that we're doing. And any questions, I'd be more than happy to.
Oh, I have a comment, though, as usual. I want to thank you, Dawn. Dawn's the administrator for the Guadalupe Center. Virtually everyone has heard about the Guadalupe Center and all the wonderful things they do for our community. And we all just went through the horrific Ian experience, and just shortly 5 years after Irma came right up through our midst. Dawn was instrumental, because with Irma, the inland communities are the ones that really took a hard hit. Dawn had enough foresight to actually realize that the impacts of Irma only exemplified the needs that Immokalee already, in fact, had in advance. And she was instrumental. I helped assist a little bit. I didn't do much, but I was on the peripheral and established the Unmet Needs Coalition of Immokalee, and then programmed certain studies and events to assist the community to take care of those needs that were just exemplified by the storm. The storm caused a lot of damage, but those needs existed pre-Irma and such. So from me to you, all that you do for our community, that you're quite humble and don't tell everybody what it is that you're doing, but I do see it, so thank you.
Thank you for taking my calls.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate it. But
Thank
thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, back to item 5A. This is an update on the status of Hurricane Ian recovery efforts in Collier County. Mr. Dan Summers, your director of the Bureau of Emergency Services and Emergency Management, I never get it right, is here to present.
Good morning. Dan Summers, your Director of Bureau of Emergency Services and Emergency Management. And I'm going to take a little risk here and jump outside the swim lane and make two comments. Commissioner McDaniel, first of all, spot on issues and challenges that we have pre-disaster and then what happens immediately after a disaster. And I look at this room and I have to tell you, it is always a community teamwork and partnership. I've worked with Dawn for years. Many of our organizations that were here this morning, I just want to say thank you, and thank you for understanding that our goal is to try to throw gas on the fire and expand our forces and expand the community's capability to respond. So I want to thank you for making that point known. And I'm always humbled to be up here because you've got division directors and department heads and managers out in the field that are out there busting their gut, as you know now, for 40 days to help put Collier County back together. And I always like to thank them, and I know you thank them for their hard work. And then last, Commissioner Taylor and Commissioner Solis, you have a standing invitation to join the rest of us with a cold bologna sandwich anytime you would like at the EOC. So I have always appreciated your support during those critical times, and thank you very much for that.
That's quite an honor, because when you're on high alert and when you're getting things going, you know, everybody's a team player. So thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Moving on real quick, again, our partner agencies, our first and second responders that continue to be heavily engaged. And also, you know, we have a lot of, not only our nonprofits, but our churches that are doing so much in the community. We do our best to help coordinate them, facilitate them, try to avoid duplication of effort, and where we have resources, we continue to forward those to those. So again, our thoughts and prayers with those that are heavily impacted. Just a brief recap. I don't want to, I'm not going into too much length here. Obviously, our goals continue to be the same with survivor assistance, our utility restoration, debris removal, infrastructure assessment, transportation systems, and right sizing. All of those objectives still remain in place. They take a different flavor, a different flair each day as we go through the recovery process. I just want to highlight three items here that are underlined in the Emergency Operations Center effort. Just because there's not 86 people in the room operating right this minute doesn't mean that the communication channels are not working hard. We continue to work closely with National Red Cross, who's still addressing shelter populations at the North Collier Regional Park. That number of folks there this morning is 46. They continue to work very hard to get folks placed. And as you mentioned as well, we certainly are aware and working with our nonprofit partner agencies for many of those that were pre-disaster homeless as well. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but FEMA is on site. The National Red Cross has provided an incredible level, actually, of financial support as needed, and working on case management type activity to get everyone settled back to pre-disaster conditions. We've also asked FEMA to tweak our deployment of the Disaster Recovery Center by making some mobile resources available, get better geographically spaced. FEMA has been very limited, and frankly, I've been a little disappointed in the level of resources for the Disaster Recovery Center, but it is a nationwide manpower issue with FEMA, and we have worked those teams very hard, and they have gone nonstop. So right now we have a DRC at the museum. Unfortunately, they made a decision to close Wednesday through Saturday, depending on Nicole. I suspect they'll revise that tentative closing right now because the forecast has certainly improved. But we're watching that and continue to go back to the south, continue to do more canvassing with FEMA, and you'll see the statistics on that shortly. But I wanted to make sure that we had very good coverage for the Disaster Recovery Center. And I have to give one more shout out. I was with the FEMA staff on Sunday as they demobilized Veterans Park and moved that DRC to the museum. I talked with FEMA staff who had been there for weeks and weeks, and they could not be more complimentary to the park staff for the coordination and the hospitality and the service that they worked with FEMA to provide those disaster registration applicants.
I noticed that bus was there this morning when I came in. Is it requisite it be there at the museum? Do they need in and out service with the building?
They are using the building, but the bus provides a satellite link for their data. So the bus is really a mobile satellite RF unit.
To the building they're using.
That's correct. So the bus serves as their communication linkages. And finally, our team worked with children and families to get a very large and I think a very well-run disaster supplemental nutrition program, or what's known as food stamps registration for disaster. 3,500 families were assisted on Sunday. I don't have Monday's number. They're closed today and will reopen on Wednesday. And that program went extremely well, and we couldn't have done that without the support of the Sports Spark team and the Collier Sheriff's Office. So those items, again, a few additional success stories there towards recovery. As I mentioned, the Recovery Center, we want to continue those efforts as best we can. That I have provided you the index of programs that remain available, with the exception of Blue Roof. Blue Roof program managed by the Corps and FEMA have now ceased operations. They went several days without registrations or without demand. So that's actually kind of a good news item those challenges
We
have gone
still
away.
do have tarps available.
We do have some tarps, and our 311 team knows if that becomes necessary. We have done that in the past with kind of a self-service come by and pick up if it becomes necessary. One other point here, we rely so heavily, and Christy has an item in front of you today for the SHIP program and disaster reimbursement. And I just want to recognize, and I know you are aware, that we rely so heavily on Salvation Army for casework as they have done during COVID. They hopefully will get some funding released from Volunteer Florida, which is where the governor's large fund is. I just want to share an observation with you is that when we give locally to the Community Foundation, funding gets moved to emergency needs in hours. Right now, we have funding in Volunteer Florida that has taken weeks to even get an application from. So hopefully that will be a corrective action item that will come up in the future to get the money into these nonprofits so they can serve locally. Again, I think it speaks volume. We've moved money in hours, and we are still trying to get money moved from Volunteer Florida.
It's important to report or to repeat that that's local money that stays local.
Absolutely.
From a philanthropic community.
Absolutely. Good. Well said. This is a little interesting here just to show you the increase in FEMA registrations and the funding. We're now up to 31,126 folks in Collier County have registered for FEMA assistance. They have now dispersed $37.4 million. That's up from $30 million. $21 million in housing assistance. That's now $25 million. Other needs assistance was 9.8 and is now 12.9. I do think this is, money doesn't fix it all, but money helps. And I think the fact that FEMA is rapidly dispersing this money and doing this casework with FEMA registrations is certainly a big help. And folks are trying to find alternatives. The transitional shelter assistance, which is the movement of folks from the shelter to a hotel or from any other displaced housing challenges. Again, not many check-ins, but that program is available, and certainly we know what a tight market situation we have with our hotel and tourism industry. Small Business Administration. FEMA will refer many individuals to SBA for a low-interest loan, and I can't emphasize enough to those who are applying for FEMA assistance to make sure that you don't give up. If they send you to an SBA application, make the application. There's an opportunity that you may be denied by SBA, and then you're re-referred back to FEMA for additional individual and family grants. So don't give up on the process. But at least the dollars approved right now through SBA in Collier County are $30 million. So again, an opportunity to get some money moving into those individuals who can help route their course of recovery. I want to, again, just let folks know that when an inspector calls from FEMA, return that call, make that appointment, work with that individual. I have met many of those inspectors. They have a very helpful and courteous mindset and are working really hard to support residents as well as those disaster assistance counselors who are canvassing and helping folks on a door-to-door type basis. The recovery center that I have mentioned earlier, again, I want that to continue because we have found that in the absence of a lot of the internet challenges that we're having, folks are having a difficult time uploading documentation. And so we've asked FEMA to amend that mission a little bit to be able to support residents to upload documents that FEMA requires. Stay in touch with our website. We're keeping that information up to date. And again, the tentative closing right now scheduled due to Hurricane Nicole. Christy Sontag's group at Community and Housing have the 2 SHIP programs that are part of your agenda today as a walk-on item. And Christy is here if you have any questions at the end of my presentation to talk about her grant program. Debris is here. Debris operations. Carrie Hodgkin and her team have done a phenomenal job, along with the contractors. I can't really believe we're at day 40 and hit well over the 1 million cubic yard mark in debris cleanup, and I believe that was done Friday afternoon, and some hoist of a coffee cup possibly, but tremendous work there. And as is protocol, and we did during Hurricane Ian, the haulers will take a few days off during the Thanksgiving break because they're on a 48 or so day continuous run. So be aware that they will take a couple of days during the Thanksgiving break. Our road and bridge team continue to support the city, continue to work on our roadways. They've been supporting us in variable message board activity as we continue to move those disaster recovery centers, working in the right of way, and trying to get some type of operations back to normal. Stormwater group, again, certainly paying big attention yesterday with the potential for Nicole, but Nicole's track seems to be deviating to the north, which is good news, and I'll report more on that shortly. And again, at the 90% mark associated with irrigation, it's just going to take some time to make those repairs on the last 10%. The waterway cleanup process, that has a very methodical process, and we know that there is a process of working through natural resources has to go into the well first for debris cleanup. Typically, unfortunately, that's a statute that's been on the books, and FEMA requires natural resources and conservation to be contacted first for a debris removal process. They don't have funding typically. After that, there is coordination with Florida Department of Environmental Protection, Emergency Management, and then FEMA. So unfortunately, debris removal is a little bit of a bureaucratic process, but we have contractors ready to go as soon as all of that is cleared up. And I was glad to see the waterway debris at Collier County FL email address established to stay in touch with Beth and her team as they work on canal cleanup. I was scheduled to have a direct housing representative here from the Florida Division of Emergency Management, Ian Olin. Ian was recalled yesterday back to Tallahassee for them to regroup for Hurricane Nicole, or what could be Hurricane Nicole. So I'm going to fill in and update you on direct housing. Just to let you know, there are 3 components to the FEMA direct housing mission, and we use that word direct FEMA because they are the manager. They own and operate that program, and they do have privacy protection requirements that they adhere to. There are 3 programs, the direct lease, which is where they find opportunities for bricks and mortar rental. There's also the transportable temporary housing unit, which we know is a travel trailer, but we have to put it in FEMA-Ease. And Jamie French and his team are ready to go. We have the necessary activity in our land use code, et cetera, to allow rapid deployment and rapid setup of the travel trailers. And finally, a multifamily lease site might be a rental property that may be made available. And let me just go back on the travel trailer can also be a manufactured home. Depending on the number of occupants that are needed. They're not going to put 6 people in a travel trailer, but if there is an opportunity for a mobile home placement, FEMA also has that. So there is a travel trailer and a mobile home, and those are decided based on FEMA casework and the number of occupants or the number of family members. They have to meet eligibility requirements. FEMA goes through that at great length. And of course, I do find it a little ironic here that verified loss of at least $12 per square foot. That's a pretty low number in Collier County for damage per square foot, or is determined by FEMA. And then, of course, programs for renters as well. The timeline, I wish this was better. I will tell you that Collier County was way ahead of the timeline. We had information ready the second day of the storm to get to FEMA and their contractor, site contractors, the Corps of Engineers, followed by a third-party commercial contractor. We had all of the necessary park data, site data, zoning information ready for them right out the gate. So we do know that placement can take 4 to 6 weeks. I do not have an estimated delivery date. I know that there was a staging area planned for, unfortunately, in the East Coast. I don't know if that staging area is going to be impacted by Hurricane Nicole or not. Meanwhile, they will continue to move forward with all their programming and their placement.
Question now, you want to wait?
Yeah, I would. We received a call yesterday from a citizen who said that FEMA knocked at their door, approved their driveway, but then came back and said that they couldn't, there was something incorrect. Are FEMA on the ground doing this door to
Yeah,
door right
FEMA and the Corps are on the ground. So if they have met the eligibility through registering at the Disaster Assistance Center, yes, another inspector will go out and survey the site for a travel trailer. Now, if there's some other issue that growth management needs to look into, or, you know, maybe it was, I don't know, the driveway was too short or something like that, we'll be glad to take a look.
surprised that they were, knowing where these trailers aren't right now, I was surprised that they're already going.
Oh, yes, they are actively canvassing to set those. I just don't have a delivery date yet for anybody. And honestly, they will not report that. They will work that out directly with the homeowner.
Thank you.
There are some reasons why the direct housing may not fit. It could be other solutions provided by FEMA. A travel trailer or a mobile home is certainly the second preference. Bricks and mortar would be the first preference. They may not be feasible, as again, maybe back to your driveway reference here, or they may not wish to secure other utility connections. So there are some reasons for denial, but that's usually worked out in agreement with the FEMA inspector as they get ready or prepare to set that unit. I wish I had a little more information here, but 743 households in Collier County met a threshold for this particular housing mission. 47 were approved. There are no households in Collier County, as this information was reported to the state to me yesterday. There are no one currently occupying a trailer at this point. The commercial sites, we have 9 that still need to be assessed, and FEMA is doing a secondary assessment on 11. So those would be your existing mobile home parks or RV sites. The Corps of Engineers team is on the ground. We've been working with them. Our core team is split between Collier County and Hendry County, so they are doing double duty on these trailer assessments. The Corps representatives, ironically, are folks that I worked with in coastal North Carolina, so I've been putting the squeeze on them to get busy, and hopefully we hear something soon. Do I dare transition and talk about Hurricane Nicole? But I will, because conditions are certainly improving. Last night when I went to print, and this is not in your handout this morning, but I will update that for you, we were looking at a Category 1, obviously approaching the East Coast. An executive order was issued by the governor yesterday, which included Collier County, which is not unusual to have adjacent counties declared, because it went from Dade County north. Obviously, the big concern with this particular event will be the East Coast beaches. Let me say that again, the East Coast beaches with the greatest storm surge potential, maybe being in the Palm Beach area and north. So the track shifted from what we went to print last night, shifted to the north, which puts things in much better condition for us. And I was able to add these arrows this morning on the forecast just to let you know that basically Collier County is just outside of that cone. I don't want to jinx that, but things are looking very, very good for us in Collier County.
And just to give a little reference, if I may interrupt you, the 1 p.m. on Thursday, where it says S right below FL, this morning got moved. It's now north of the FL.
That's correct.
On this morning's forecast. That's just a little reference for folks.
Yes, thank you for that. And again, I just had a little difficulty updating here at the last minute this morning. Only a 5% probability of sustained tropical storm force winds. That is a thunderstorm for us, so I feel very good about that. I did leave you a footnote here about a local state of emergency if it became necessary, if for some reason we had any substantial debris changes. Debris impacts. It is essential that FEMA will not commingle events or disasters. So we, Carrie and her debris team, are aware that they have a box, if you will, around what is in damage, and we have to punt, regroup, and reset if we have damages from Nicole. I don't think that's going to be the case. However, that will require a second local state of emergency in order to compartmentalize that second response. I don't think we need to do that now. I do not think we need a local state of emergency, but we'll monitor.
Do we need to, Mr. Chairman, do we need to authorize the chairman to issue that on our behalf if needed?
That would be great insurance.
Let's do that. I think we did that before, but I'll make a motion to authorize our chairman to issue a state of emergency in reference to Hurricane Nicole in the event that our emergency management staff request that from the chairman. There'll be no need for a commission meeting to do that.
Second.
Do we want to include the sheriff in that decision-making process as well, as we have done?
Sure. I mean,
Yes, if you wouldn't mind amending the motion
as long as
to.
you don't have the authority on your own.
Yeah, we don't want to turn me loose, that's for sure. Okay, yes,
Whatever works.
it's been moved and seconded that the chair be authorized to declare a state of emergency if appropriately asked. How's that? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, same sound, so moved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we are arm in arm with the sheriff on any of these tactical decisions, so certainly we will do that. Storm surge inundation, much lower numbers today. And again, this is kind of unusual in that we could potentially receive, and again, up to a foot of storm surge as the storm potentially exits into the Gulf and then hooks back around. But we talked with Miami Weather this morning. We think this is a very low probability. However, we do have to watch with some astronomical tides. We can handle this 1 foot level if it became necessary. I don't see that as being any serious impact for any of our operations right now. Again, too early to tell due to timing, and we feel pretty confident about the, I'll call it the lack of intensification going forward. Again, a reminder to our public, monitor the conditions. Want to make sure that we're continuing to keep drainages open so we can move stormwater, take pictures of current conditions. We think there is a low probability of any intermittent power outages, but we might get a gust. We might get a wire that was loose during Irma. During Ian. We'll secure loose items, continue to monitor, register with Alert Collier, and check your kit for a few extra items just in case we need it here over the next few days. But again, I think things are looking pretty good for us at this hour. Just to wrap up a little bit, we've already taken care of number one. We continue to, we have a little concern about the slow restoration process with a lot of our communication carriers, really impacting Everglades City. And we have made numerous requests to the state EOC for some expedited repair of Comcast and CenturyLink. And I'll be candid, that's not going well. And we're going to continue to work with the state on that. But, Mr. Chairman, this might be a situation where it's time to see if there's an opportunity to have some dialogue with these carriers on restoration, because this internet connectivity and slow restoration, unlike our electrical folks, it is really hampering recovery.
It's been a terrible impediment. And then there again, we learned with Irma, Irma was more of a wind event and destroyed our cell service and so on and so forth. This one was a saltwater intrusion. And
exactly.
These carriers weren't well prepared for daily operations, let alone an 8-10 foot surge and the saltwater inundation. So.
Well, we'll see how that goes. We have provided through the State Emergency Operations Center several Starlink units, which provided some internet connectivity. Mm-hmm. We've worked with one cell phone carrier in particular that's been very supportive of Everglades City, and we'll just have to watch that. But I wanted to let you know that was top on our radar. Finally, we have had some conversation with my colleague in Lee County. Those folks have really had a marathon event, as you would imagine, and once again, we offered some Collier EM staff to go up to Lee County and relieve those folks a little bit during daylight hours, as well as our Florida Emergency Preparedness Association has sent EM directors from other parts of the county to go in there and relieve those folks just a little bit. But we have ongoing dialogue with Lee County for mutual aid support, and we are tentatively slated to be a staging area for some supplies and equipment for FDEM over at our over on our campus, should deployment become necessary. So that's my wrap up. I'll gladly take any questions. Again, my sincere thanks to you all and to all the partner agencies who are doing a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes.
Commissioner Saunders.
Just a quick question. In your report, you talked about the assistance to the city of Naples and Road and Bridge cleaning up their roadways. Can you elaborate on that just a little bit as to what the county did provide? Do we get, is that a reimbursable expense from FEMA? Just a little bit of a general information about how that.
I was looking to see here. Oh, Trinity's here. So let me phone a friend, let Trinity address that.
Trinity, did you understand what I was asking?
For the record, Trinity Scott, Department Head, Transportation Management Services. We assisted with them with clearing their roadways, getting debris off of their roadways, sand, et cetera. A lot of the beach dunes washed over the roadways, so we were assisting in getting that up off of the roadways and keeping them passable.
No, I understand that we assisted with that, but I mean, in terms of personnel, in terms of expense, or maybe that's something that you could provide to me.
I can provide that back to you on the personnel, and certainly we keep track of all of that. We have very detailed personnel records that we keep pre, during, and post-event.
Are those expenses reimbursable from FEMA?
I just was talking with Dan Summers, and I'm going to defer to him on that because he's the one who deals with FEMA much more regularly than I do.
Yes. And don't go away, Trinity.
The short answer is I'm 99% sure the answer is yes. Anything with FEMA could change from day to day, but you have two things to rely on. Number one, we have an interlocal agreement for debris removal. No doubt this was part of a debris mission as we clean that sand and drainages. Number one. Number two, we also have the City of Naples and Collier County in a statewide mutual aid agreement. So there is a mutual assistance process. So there are two agreements that would cover that.
Thank you.
Just and Commissioner Saunders, I thank you for bringing that up with regard to it's time to say, come on up, back up to the microphone. It's time to say thank you to our roads and bridges folks. I was constant communication with our senior staff as the storm was coming through and going through. We had close to 99, 98, 99 911 calls stacked up. We all know the reason why Dan tells you every time you come around the corner to have 72 hours of preparation in place. We had almost 100 911 calls, and I was on the phone with Miss Amy, who was talking to Trinity, and we can't roll our ambulances until the winds subside to 50 miles an hour, and so we can do other things and did. Our Road and Bridges Department were out in advance clearing our roads, major arteries, so that our first responders could in fact get to those folks in a timely manner. And so from me to you and from all of us to you, thank them for us.
Absolutely, I will. I am very proud to be able to lead that team. They're an amazing group of individuals who put themselves on the line. I had folks out in the middle of this storm deploying pumps.
Yes, I remember. I mean, yeah, absolutely. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Commissioner LaCastro, do you have a statement?
Things. Dan, first I wanted to thank you for your sense of urgency getting back to the news media yesterday. They were lighting up a couple of our phones, but you know, it's not like we're trying to get on the news. We want them to talk to the subject matter expert. And then I got a text back that they immediately got a hold of you. You gave them all the great info. And, you know, we want the general public to hear the latest and greatest. So I know you're a busy guy, but, you know, I think we all appreciated that. Secondly, and this is for Jamie, Trinity, and just, you know, your group. When we have sometimes these back-to-back storms and we all have a little bit of experience. Sometimes this isn't uncommon. Sometimes we get these that are stacked up. I would just, you know, recommend or just throw it out there for what it's worth. We've done a lot of work cleaning our beaches from Ian, but as we've been advertising. We don't know what debris is still in the water. We don't know what debris is out there. We've been testing the water to make sure that the bacteria levels are low or non-existent, and all the things we're doing to safely open our beaches. When a storm comes through back to back like this, it's not uncommon for the waters to be churned a little bit and Ian debris to make its way to the beaches. So all I would say is, as we're sort of queuing up and triaging and prioritizing sort of our cleanup crews, some of the beaches where we think we're, quote, done, I hope we're going to go back out there after this storm passes, because we might see new debris. And also, too, having taken a couple of meetings with some red tide specialists, when storms back to back happen like this, and it's not about red tide, but if there is any bacteria or something in the water that's at acceptable levels, but there might be things offshore, when the second storm churns up the currents and whatnot, it oftentimes can change those levels then quickly from what we experienced during Ian. So I know we've worked really hard raking the sand on the beaches, picking up so much debris, but I just think, once this lesser storm subsides, I hope we're doing everything humanly possible to get back to even some of the beaches that we've given a thumbs up to, saying they're good to go, because I don't think we won't be surprised to see, big chunks of people's docks that got lost during Ian that finally made it to the shores of, one of our beaches, because this storm moved things around a little bit. So I just throw that out there.
Sir, you're spot on, and I would say, again, another reason that, and I thank you for having the option for a local state of emergency, because if that shows up, it is a, quote, new event and a new process. So thank you for that.
Commissioner Taylor.
So the question of the day, of course, are the beaches open?
Trinity?
So first, if I could address Commissioner LaCastro's statement about, we are continuing to rake the beaches on a daily basis. We're back to normal business operations. We are still pulling debris as it does wash up out. So it does wash up on the beaches, but we will continue that effort through Nicole and as our usual business practice. With regard to beaches, several of our beach ends suffered significant damage. So majority of our beach ends, our beach access ways, are not traversable. However, if a resident is to bypass that and get out on the beaches, we have been raking the beaches as normal operations. However, we would strongly encourage folks to be cognizant of debris. We are continuing to have debris wash up. We have signs out to be cautious of debris that may be submerged or otherwise wash up on the waters. But they should also monitor the Department of Health website, because they monitor the water conditions and they will post advisories as necessary with regard to the water quality.
So by posting these signs, proceed at your own risk, like lifeguard is not present, swim with your own risk.
Yes, essentially.
The same idea, right?
Yes.
And so what happens when people throw these signs away because it's happening? I just want the county covered. I don't want something awful to happen and then the fingers pointed back at us. So I don't know if there's a statement, something legal you can do or anything, just to have some kind of liability coverage, because frankly, they are swarming to the beaches right now.
Right.
Even in the city.
Yes, ma'am, we understand that. And I would defer to Jeff with regard to anything legal or any liability that we may have. Mr. Mullins and his team are doing a great job we continuously are putting messages out through our social media, through our press releases, with regard to the beach conditions and the submerged debris that may be out there.
You got anything to say with that?
Yeah, you can remove all liability by banning people from the beaches, but I don't think our tourist industry would do that. So,
Yeah, I'm not thinking.
it's risk reward.
That's right.
So post signs, be careful, dangerous, but unless you want to shut the beaches down, and I do not recommend that.
Amen. No.
Then we
No,
just
no.
we'll just deal with it.
Yes. Well, and our worthy county attorney will defend us to the end. There was a sign there. Take pictures of when, Trinity, make sure you take pictures when you put a sign up, so when somebody tears it down, we can say it was there and somebody took it away. Any other questions for Mr. Summers before I cut him loose? We're all good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Before we go on to the next agenda item, we do have a friend here in the audience, Miss Holly Rasheen. Would you like to say a few words, young lady? Miss Holly is she's wearing her Ashbridge hat or hat and shirt today, but she's also a commissioner from Monroe County, and traveled up here to say good morning.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners, Mr. Chairman, staff. Just on behalf of Ashbridge and our Senior VP of Operations, he's in charge of the operation here in Collier County. He's on the ground today. He couldn't be here. I know he's been in front of you before. But just to share with you what a delight it's been to work with Collier County during this entire process. I know it's been arduous. It's been challenging. There's a number of hurdles that you always have to leap over during times of disaster. But again, on behalf of the Ashbridge, the entire Ashbridge team, wanted to say thank you. And thank you to Mr. Rodriguez, and thank you to Mr. Summers and all of your team. Again, just delightful. And I do have a little token, a challenge coin, Mr. Chairman, if I could just pass it out to you all. And with that, just thank you so much. And on our team calls, Collier County always gets the gold star. So wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to visit us today. And Miss Carey, you want to make your way up so we can... Appreciate it.
Just want to make sure these are not worth more than $5.
Four. It's $4. $4.
Sorry, I just want to make sure they're not worth more than $4.
Yeah, that's right.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Carrie Hodson, Director of Solid Waste. I'm available if you might have any questions about the debris recovery mission.
Well, I figured somebody would at some stage if I invited you up here. I was looking at the, by the way, I love the dashboard website that's been set up. That's a nice little click of a button to tell us all geographically where, when, and how, and what's in fact going on. I noticed a downtick in the volume and loads per day, and I can't find on the dashboard the assets with regard to the trucks. Are we running into an issue with the volume of trucks or?
No, not at all. Actually, Ashbridge has confirmed that all trucks are dedicated to be here till the end. We've downticked just due to volume. So we're down on trucks. We've found the right number of trucks to get all of the debris so that it is a happy-going course. So as we move into these next 2 weeks, we've actually decreased trucks by at least 50. And
well, there was a downtick in the volume because we were running 30,000 tons or yards a day, and it tricked to 15. And I was wondering what precipitated that.
So we're on the other side of the curve. We've caught the bulk of it, so that's why you see a lot of, we've hit the million cubic yard mark, and so we're coming down the hill and we're finding less debris is set out, as well as the hours, the hour changing. It gets darker sooner, so the trucks aren't on the road quite as long. So that's a lot of the reason for the downtick.
Okay, well then that was primarily my question. Because I watched those things and I knew there was a reason. I watched the volume tick up when we found the alternative site staging area up in the Wiggins Pass area for those debris haulers there. They could get to and from where the material was in fact located. But I didn't see. I couldn't cipher off the dashboard why there was a downtick. I mean, we hit the million mark, yay, but there's still an enormous amount of debris to be gathered. So
yes, there's still a lot out there, and with it getting darker sooner, to having less number of trucks we're able to deploy them in the areas where they really need attention. Still a lot of focus on that on the West Coast. So you'll still see the truck numbers there, and you'll still see it every day on the dashboard. It should be there, and I'll double check that.
All right. It might be, but my phone app it's a Droid, and if I had an Apple, it'd probably work better.
I can't help you there. Sorry.
Not going to go there either. I'm a DOS boy. Commissioner Solis.
Just I know that one of my last emails, I'm sure, will be when will the North Collier debris site, do you think that will be wrapped up? Any
I think as we go into 2023, it'll still be open.
Okay.
I don't think it will be open forecasting based on the way that we're moving debris, the way as you said, the cubic yards per day has gone down based on what we're sending out though. I would say worst case scenario, end of February as a worst case scenario.
Because the debris has to be brought there, then it is processed, even though it's not just vegetation, it's processed.
That is correct. By processed, it is loaded into tractor trailers and shipped out to Okeechobee landfill.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not separating it there. They're just staging it there to take it to Okeechobee. And that was a huge increase by volume to get it removed from the residential, from in front of the folks' homes. So, okay, Commissioner Castro.
Carrie, I just wanted to commend you for the professional emails I've seen you trade back and forth with citizens. And, you know, at times when citizens scream at us and people say, oh, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, I always say I hate that statement because I think priorities get the oil. So somebody screaming that their palm fronds haven't been picked up, I've been proud to see your reply saying, you know, we're aware, but we're actually in neighborhoods right now picking up everything that the people own that is out on the curb, you know, appliances and furniture. So we'll get to you. And you've said it in such a professional way that some of the responses have been, oh, thank you. You know, I just want to make sure we're not forgotten. But the way you all have prioritized the neighborhoods, I mean, there's some really bad, hard hit ones in all of our, you know, districts, you know, but, you know, especially mine, you know, Commissioner Taylor, but, you know, we've got pockets everywhere. And, you know, you've really done a professional job directing the traffic and not sort of caving to, you know, this one block is screaming and yelling. It's easy to just say, okay, send over the truck and just, you know, quiet them down. But the reality is that pulls the truck then away from a place where we've got some really significant debris that's dangerous. And also I've heard from people, especially on Isles of Capri, that, you know, when everything they own is out on the curb and you've done such a great job to remove it, it really isn't an emotional lift. You know, somebody seeing everything they own in front of their curb is a lot different than a few palm fronds. So just thank you for how you've done it and your sense of urgency too with emails you've received or things that I've forwarded to you. It's shown how hard the county has really been working, and you've really been a great representative and a leader. I know we all appreciate it. It's noticed and appreciated.
Thank you.
So
I
keep it up.
appreciate that. And it's only because we have the support of great leadership. I appreciate all the information that the commissioners do send forward. And we have an amazing team. As well, I've went to the sites and talked to some of the drivers for the contractors, and many of them have had damaged homes, and they're still here dedicated every day, driving a truck, removing debris. So thank you for your support.
I'll go away one more. Commissioner Taylor.
Well, I just wanted to talk to you about appreciation, and that even the youngest in our community appreciate this debris pickup. It was really, really early in the morning. It was light in Lake Park, and it was a neighborhood street, and the double truck, right? The double, I don't know if that's what you call it. The double truck came, and they were picking up debris. And a family of 3 came out in the street, and she was in her dressing gown, and her youngest one was in diapers, and then the older one, who was not much older, was in shorts. And the youngest one could not take his eyes off the claw that was picking up the debris. And the older one was like, oh yeah, and he started to dance around this little boy who was transfixed at this activity. It was such, it was an ad for what you're doing, because to think on a narrow, residential street that you can have these huge trucks and still do the job you're doing speaks volumes. And you're not there personally to supervise it. They're just doing their job. Thank you.
Yeah, they are. They're doing a great job. Thank you. I'll make sure that that's well received for them as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ms. Carey.
Yep.
That's
Thank
all
you
I
all.
have. We are 4 minutes past our favorite court reporters break, so we're going to go take 10 minutes and be back at 10:44.
Chair, you have a live mic.
Yes, we are back 4 minutes late, and we're going to blame Commissioner LaCastro since he's not here. So let's move on to our next item.
Commissioner, our next item is item 7, public comments on general topics not on the current or future agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I have 3 registered speakers for this item. Your first speaker is Jackie Key. She'll be followed by Garrett FX Byrent.
Good morning, Jackie Kay. Some Americans are no longer free. They are being targeted, abused, and destroyed by the very politicians they elected to serve and protect them. Such politicians are toxic leaders. They derive great pleasure in doing evil, harming people, and causing social and political chaos. Research shows that 3 out of every 10 leaders are toxic. The author of The Lure of Toxic Leaders described a toxic leader as those individuals who, by virtue of their destructive behavior and dysfunctional personal qualities, I'm out of breath, or characteristics, inflict serious and enduring harm on the individual, groups, organization, communities, and even the nations that they lead. One of the most common practices of toxic leaders is bullying. According to the author of the studies that details negative effects of toxic leaders and workplace bully, as high as 81% of bullies occupy high-ranking positions. Toxic leaders are arrogant, neurotic, prejudiced, and pathological liars. Common traits are extreme jealousy, excessive self-promotion and self-interest, targeting and preying on vulnerable people, and a lack of morals and integrity. Behavioral signs are blaming others instead of taking responsibility, low emotional intelligence, and a lack of humility. Tanya Blatnick contends that toxic bosses display psychopathic traits when they abuse their powers to harm others. For reference, psychopaths can be found where there is an abundance of power, wealth, and status, i.e. corporate America, politics, and yes, churches. They appear successful and charming outwardly, like wolves in sheep's clothing, at first, which, while lacking in empathy and remorse as they destroy the people and organizations they run. They create a toxic system of people around them to enable their grand delusions of power and self-importance. They insist that they alone are the saviors who protect their followers from the enemies. Although toxic leaders produce successful short-term results, unfortunately, in the long term, they cause great destruction. As a matter of fact, they leave the organizations or their nation or states worse off than they found them. So as a nation, we voted out one dangerously toxic politician, and we have many more to go. And yes, as Americans, voters, we have the power, and we need to use that to better our government and our communities. Thank you all.
Your next speaker is Garrett FX Byrent. He will be followed by Elizabeth Ratty.
For the record, Garrett FX Byrent, and you probably saw me at the DLC meeting. We can't discuss that. That was actually my crew from Walmart. I brought them in, and they had a lot of mental issues that they wanted to discuss, but the whole meeting went sideways. So, and I didn't want to give you the whole history of the David Lawrence Center, but long and short is these are the last awards I'm giving out to Andy. And this is because he's a big fan of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I got him a replica of Eleanor. Remember Eleanor? Fast and Furious. Remember all those other ones that weren't Fast and Furious? Right. Going in 60 seconds?
Yes.
This is his car, okay? That's your car now.
Get out of here.
Yeah, 60 seconds, you got to get out of here. I got it like a minute and a half. And this is the really strangest thing. This is a level, okay, that you use The Chinese came up with this, and it's called Hyper Tough. Like, that's a great name for a guy, right? Hyper Tough, that wears red and black. Ignore this. Don't. She's wearing red and black. She's not a regular county commissioner. She never was. She's always been tough, right? So long and short, this is for when you get your awards. It's got a special slot in it, and you put it behind your award as you hang it on the wall, and it makes it level. And you're a level-headed guy, right? I've never had that problem. I've been in DLC so many times, they got a plaque with my name on it. Thank you very much for your time. And I'll give this to Amy.
Mr. Chair, your final registered speaker is Elizabeth Ratty.
That's kind of hard to follow. Good morning, commissioners. I'm coming to you today in public comment, not wearing the hat of the Collier County Tenant Union, but as myself. I want to speak about integrity. The definition is the quality of being honest and strong moral principles, the state of being whole and undivided. Back a few years ago when I worked at the Willow, I ran a processing group about integrity. It was one of the most requested groups, although sometimes in addiction, it can be in a revolving door with patients. Every time a patient came back, they would seek me out because it was, to them, a reset and a foundation for their recovery. Basically, in that group, I would say you have a baseline of integrity, and one little tiny thing will take you that much further away from that baseline before you realize where you're at. You started here, now you're here. It takes you that much further to get back to that baseline. I have, as well as others in the community, been in utter shock over the last few months as the antics have taken place. I was asked by reporters who the tenant union would endorse, and I said no one. We are a bipartisan group, and having a housing crisis isn't a political affiliation. That we, in order to be effective, must represent everybody in the county. That all of our voices and needs matter. I was asked to endorse certain candidates, and trust me, they jumped on our page for campaign purposes, and quickly found out that wasn't going to happen. I loved getting to know many of the candidates running for whatever office they were and their gifts, talents, and experiences. They came with extraordinary talents. You have some extremely talented minds in Collier County. Unfortunately, they were never seen. And why? Because they were not considered far enough right or far enough left. Yet, they were incredible leaders. I think we forget, as when we look at things and we looked at certain races and certain things, that we scream for freedom. We scream that we want to make sure that we preserve that freedom, but yet we lock out the freedoms and voices of 40% of certain districts, that we lock out the voices of people that actually matter. And the antics that have driven this county have been despicable. And until those that are affected, truly affected by it, stand up and say no more, it's going to continue. And I will tell you this, it has been known all the way to a state level what has happened in District 4.
I won't even say thank you. Okay.
Commissioners, we do have an 11 o'clock time certain if we want to
Let's just do that. We have 3 minutes away.
take that one 3 minutes early. All right. Item 11I, which is being heard at time certain at 11 a.m., is a recommendation to approve a Collier County Tourist Development Council Category B Promotion Funds Grant application for the U.S. Open Pickleball Championship for fiscal year 2023. Mr. Paul Bierns, your tourism director, will begin the presentation or comments.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Paul Bierens, for the record, Director of Tourism. Just get a little bit of insight, and this is actually what I consider a pretty good news item in general. Basically, a couple months ago, this item was brought to the Tourist Development Council meeting, which passed unanimously. And just for a little bit of reminder, the Tourist Development Tax, which is not part of the general fund, it's actually defined by the state statute as far as the, I'll call it the buckets or the uses of these funds, ranging everything from beach renourishment and coastal zoning and in this case, capital expenditure. Number of years ago, Collier County got behind and recognized the significant uptick in popularity of pickleball, embraced it over in East Naples Community Park, and also embraced the relationship we have with Spirit Promotions, which is the Minto U.S. Open Pickleball Championships. It has been a very popular and a growth-filled event, not only for that particular event, but for the use of pickleball by residents and tourists over the course of the year. As with everything in the Sunshine State, the sun, the weather, our repeated hurricanes coming through require a little bit of ongoing maintenance for the courts, windscreens, and just simply beautifying it for the event. So. Anyways, as I mentioned, we're bringing it as an item, an application of tourist development funds in the amount of $670,000, which is part of the TDC capital applications. But before we get into the bullets, we want to kind of turn things over to and invite Chris and Terry. Chris and Terry run the Minto U.S. Open Pickleball Championships. Just a little bit of an insight of the path that we've been over the last couple of years and what it looks like going forward.
You two flipping a coin as to who gets to go first?
I drew the short straw.
Got us. Caught red-handed.
Terry Graham, co-founder U.S. Open. Chris Evon, co-founder U.S. Open. Good morning. Thank you very much for giving us some time today to go over this very, very important grant for not only the U.S. Open, but East Naples Community Park and the community itself. 6 years ago, 2016 was our first U.S. Open. A couple of you were in your chairs at that time as well, a lot of new faces. But to give you a little idea, we had 9 permanent courts in 2016. We have 64 permanent courts now. 800 players then, 3,000 players. But the big thing is 2,000 spectators, 35,000 spectators we had this past year. So what does that mean for Collier County? It means heads in beds, more heads in beds, more heads in beds. Every year we have more heads in beds in this community. The sport itself, back then there was probably a little under 2 million players. The numbers haven't been out for this year, but we're probably closer to 9 million. And you've probably seen the likes of Tom Brady, LeBron James, all these people coming into the sport, buying certain things, going teams, as they call it, in this new team competition. The facility itself, our dear friend always calls it the Augusta National, the Masters. You know, this is the facility that started pickleball facilities being built around the country. It started here in Collier County. You created this monster of a facility with 64 permanent courts. But now it's time to keep up with the Joneses, quite frankly. Everybody's chasing it. They've researched our numbers down here. They've researched the tourism numbers down here. Not just 7 days, but 12 months out of the year, the tourists, and Paul will show you the numbers, the tourists that come to this community 12 months out of the year is affected by what happens over at East Naples Community Park. What else did I miss? Long straw.
I think the thing is just a lot of this has happened because of your help and the incredible job that Parks and Rec has done to help us with this park and with this facility. And right now we're needing these courts to be resurfaced. They need to be on a schedule to be resurfaced. We need them to be upgraded. And then as it comes closer to the event, there's a lot of things that need to be done to beautify the park. And like Terry said, we want to keep up with this. We want this to continue to be the crown jewel of pickleball throughout the world. This is a huge international event for this community, and it's just going to continue to get better.
Thank you.
And Troy, if you could possibly pull up page on the agenda, was 259. It's PowerPoint. Nope.
I will work on that. You didn't have your PowerPoint in the folder ready to go?
Sorry, it was just in the agenda. My apologies.
Give me a couple minutes.
That's fine. In fact, what I can do is kind of walk through a couple of the bullet points. My apologies. The wanted to give you just an insight because the property is actually a pretty significantly busy location. There's 64 pickleball courts operating 365 days of the year. There's a membership that actually plays out there on a regular basis, 2,500 members. And then the numbers came in at over 13,000 unique visitors per year, excluding the weekends and between noon and 5. So these are people that are playing this on a regular basis. Winter play alone, 2,500 drop-ins. 78% of those are tourists themselves. So, and then last year we're really proud to have opened up the new visitor center and pro shop that really added a whole new elevation. When it comes to the U.S. Open pickleball, as Chris and Terry just mentioned, 8-day event, 2,800 plus participants from around the world. That works out to be about 4,216 average daily attendance during that time. And then what we did is we actually really deep dove into surveys and research. 63% of the attendants at that event are visitors. And then when you add up the amount of bodies that went through is 33,728 total attendance. And we can definitely confirm that those individuals spread out across the entire destination with their economic impact. In itself, the event drew a $10 million economic impact into Collier County across the entire destination. And of course, above and beyond all of that, we had the opportunity to showcase the event on CBS Network as well as Pickleball Channel, which is 30 hours of live streaming on Pickleball Channel and 12 hours of broadcast of the finals on CBS Sports Network. So pretty significant exposure to the destination. And the long and the short is just really making sure that this crown jewel that we have is up to its ability to host the event for years going forward. And so getting back to the executive summary itself, the recommendation is to approve Collier County Tourist Development Council Category B Promotion Funds grant application for the U.S. Open Pickleball Championships for fiscal year 2023 in the amount of $670,000 within the TDC Capital Projects Fund.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Commissioner LaCastro, you go first.
Thank you. Paul, how are you doing?
Awesome, thank you.
I have no objection with, what I say is the investment that we continue to make in the park, but here's the only statement that I wanted to make. We subsidize a lot of organizations who bring heads and beds and bring all kinds of great and wonderful things to Collier County. So that is valuable. That's why I say that the money is an investment. But having said that, as we go forward, and like I said, I have no objection to this. So this is in the future, and we're going to be talking, a lot back and forth. I would just like to see some of these organizations that continue to explode and be very successful to share the load a little bit more financially. I don't want to see you at this podium every year asking for $670,000, $790,000, $1.2 million. I mean, and then hearing about all the success. And I'm not picking on pickleball. There's other things we're going to wind up talking about at the sports park and other places. And so I just want to plant that seed. And, and I know that our county manager and I share the same thoughts. We had a good conversation going forward about how we want to look for these opportunities because it's taxpayer dollars. And even though it's TDC money, that could be used for lots of things. It's not TDC money that says pickleball or nothing. And then I also look in my own district and go, wow, that East Naples Community Park is the Taj Mahal. It's an unbelievable shining example. But then, and this might be apples and oranges because I realize different pots of money can only be used for different things. But then I get disappointed when I have neighborhoods that are filled with kids that don't even have a playground. I have, we all, but I'll speak for me. I've got Little League teams that are playing on fields that have been built for even longer than the East Naples Community Park, and they're filled with holes. They have burned out lights. You know, parents are going to Lowe's to buy sand so the kids don't fall in holes. And, you know, I'd like to see a lot more cohesion across all of our parks. So although it might be a little bit of apples and oranges, I'm not saying, you know, don't resurface the pickleball courts and get over to some small baseball field. You know, a rising tide lifts all boats. So, you know, having an amazing sports park, having an amazing East Naples Community Park for pickleball, but I don't want to take my eye off of some of the other things. So some of that isn't really a homework assignment for you. And that's why the county manager and I have been talking that, you know, sort of wanted to see the, you know, basically a bit more balance. The other thing is, and it's more of a statement there again, it's you just happen to be standing at the podium. And I actually mentioned this to Terry. As I went to the Botanical Garden a couple days ago, I drove by the East Naples, you know, Community Park, and it's great. Huge sign out there showing the park, and then a sign that says, you know, U.S. Pickleball, home of U.S. Pickleball Championships and all that. But I actually had this conversation with Mr. Rodriguez, and I hope we do consider this. Citizens sometimes send me notes thinking that that park no longer is even a county park. It's the pickleball headquarters of the universe, and it's lots of things still. And so we've corrected rumor from fact. I think, you know, Mr. Rodriguez is even considering maybe talking to our Parks and Recs folks about putting a little bit more signage out there that makes it more clear. Hey, open courts for all citizens, 9 to 5 or whatever the numbers are, because sometimes just the curb appeal as you drive by is impressive, but it can be a little bit confusing. And so I know that's not necessarily your homework assignment, but talking about this topic, it's just a matter of like having more cohesion, because the signal we send to the taxpayers is this is still their money. Sometimes people say, well, it's TDC money. Yeah, okay, there's no such thing. It's taxpayer dollars. And if the pickleball courts didn't exist, we'd have $670,000 to do something else with. And just, I look for your expertise to, over the next year or two, whatever, to come here and help us spend money wisely. And then also, as we sit down with these organizations, we're partners. So this isn't a adversarial thing. But as these organizations continue to also make some money and get some good visibility and whatnot, I expect them to sit down at the table and go, you know what, we don't need 670 this year. We actually can share the load here and there. And actually, there's some legalities. I'm not saying they've got to resurface the courts or this, but we talked about some things where we can sit here and make sure we're both doing our part a bit and spreading the wealth and working together and making sure it's just not a blank check we're writing every year that increases by 15% because costs have gone up, and then we all just say yes, approved, and then, you know, we walk out the door. So look for your leadership and guidance to catch those things ahead of time, and then and give us proactive presentations on how we can spend TDC money wisely, you know, other things that maybe we need to invest in. And then also not being shy to look at some of these organizations saying, you know, I know you requested X number of dollars, but, you know, you all have done pretty well for yourselves the last couple of years. Where can you make some investment in this park that has to be a shining star for you? And, you know, we could more wisely spend the TDC dollars, taxpayer dollars that we have. So
duly noted, and we'll commit to that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Taylor.
Just to follow up about how this all became and how pickleball took prominence in this community. Early on, the concept of pickleball and tourist money was really questionable. We wondered, you know, Commissioner Fiala loved it, right? She thought it was a great idea, but what kind of investment? Is this going to make sense? And so we actually tested it. We did it through a social media, and don't ask me what it is because it wasn't me. I didn't do it. But there was a direct correlation between pickleball and a age group of people and a income group of people. And what we found was that people will come to Collier County to watch pickleball in the off season. Now, why is that important? Because their money is going into our community, which is a tax. And what does that tax go for? Our beaches. This is why we have the tourist tax. It's the beaches. That's why it was created in the 90s. And from that, we found out really quickly as we moved along that folks really don't like to come here when it's 95 degrees and you're sweating. But if you bring something in front of them to say, you know, this is pretty cool, you may want to come here, they will. I think FBU has proved that in the middle of July, football in the fields. And that money goes into the hotels, which is the tax. It supports our businesses. And yes, it goes into our beaches. That is why when the pier was replaced, we as an entity were able to loan the city of Naples money so they could repair the pier. That is why we have very ample reserves in place so that we can do a major beach resiliency project. That is tax money at work. And I think it's well-placed tax money at work. And this is not Collier County's ideas. This is the state of Florida. The state of Florida outlined this program. And there's a reason that Ms. Green sits there from the county attorney's office at every TDC meeting, because she is the one who tells you whether it's legal or not. And believe me, she is not shy. She is very good at this. So yes, it's a tax. But I was in Collier County when there was no beach tax. I was in Collier County when the beaches were not being renourished. And if we hadn't had this, it would have been a very different Collier County. Thank you.
Commissioner Solis.
Yeah, I just, for whatever it's worth, I'd add that, you know, the big competitors for pickleball for us, I think, is one of them is, I believe it's still Indian Wells, right, in California?
Right.
And Indian Wells, I know fairly well from the tennis side because it's one of the premier professional tennis tournaments in the whole world, really, is at Indian Wells every March. And it's my understanding that Indian Wells, after the tennis tournament, resurfaces all the courts, tennis courts, and turns them into pickleball courts. And I think they do that every year. I mean, so it's just an indication, I think, of how big pickleball really has become. And I know when this came to the TDC, all of the TDC members, board members, were in agreement that this would be a good investment. And it's also an investment, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is an investment in our parks. I mean, this isn't a grant to offset some advertising. This is actually improving our own facilities, so we benefit from it in a way. So I think Commissioner LaCastro raises some great issues. We always have to be more efficient and more careful with taxpayer money. But this is a pretty good investment, I think.
Well said. Why don't you go ahead and make a motion for approval?
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the $670,000 TDC Capital Projects Fund grant.
Second.
And for discussion purposes, I concur with everything that's been said. Commissioner LaCastro raises a valid point, not necessarily for this subject matter, but it has to do with all of our vendor participation agreements and how we're doing what we're doing all day long. We had a similar circumstance with our boat ramps and commercial operations that were utilizing public facilities, and Commissioner Solis edified this actual expenditure was an asset out of a different bucket, if you will, of revenue that helps everybody in the community as well and supports something. I mean, I was here when pickleball all started up, and we all sat around and looked at it and go, really? Because we weren't really sure it was going to go. And my goodness, look at the successes that we've garnered. So I'm in support of this, and again, in support of my colleague with regard to the comments and how we're doing what we're doing with our vendors. But that's a subject for for another day. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve this, this grant application as requested. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, so moved. Thank you, Paul. Now we go to the top of the list.
Item 11B is a recommendation to accept a project update to the North Collier Water Reclamation Facility Pre-Treatment Facility Project number 70149, currently under design with AECom Technical Services through agreement number 20-7722-NS. Mr. Matt McLean, your Public Utilities Engineering Director, will present.
Good morning, Commissioners. Matt McLean, your Director of Collier County Public Utilities. We have the pleasure to come and provide you guys with a quick briefing of what we've been working on lately on our North County Water Reclamation Facility pre-treatment project. The project location for this particular project is up at our North County Water Reclamation Facility. That is on the east side of Goodlet Road, just south of Immokalee, as shown in the project location map. Back in July, we came before you, the board, to take a little retooling of this particular project to go away from the design-build concept and go back to a more traditional design-bid-build contract, which you approved along with certifying the existence of the valid public emergency for our existing pre-treatment facility. At that time, we engaged AECom Services to do the design and bidding services for that particular section of the initial design. In August, we started off on the traditional design process through that retooling and issued the notice to proceed to AECom for those design through bidding services. One of the important things that the project team noted right away when we began our kickoff meeting, due to the fact that the board supported that certification of the existence of the valid public emergency, that schedule was a critical, important item for us. We worked very diligently with the design team and our project management team to come up with some coordinated results to effectively reduce the overall schedule for that design through bid section of the upcoming project. Originally, it was expected that we would complete the design by September of 2023. We're happy to report that with reallocation of some design services and team members on our team individually, we were able to compress that down to the expectation to have 100% design plans and bid documents ready by the end of February in 2023. In order to do that, we had to provide additional project management resources to the project on the county side, as well as get a commitment from our design engineering firm to coordinate and meet multiple times a week to have an ongoing dialogue so that we're in a position to be able to have continued real-time decisions on this particular project. It is a critical infrastructure project for us, and it demanded that additional amount of resources, which we've all put together in order to accomplish our updated schedule. So in that lens, we're happy to report that we are on schedule to complete the 100% design plans and go out to bid by the end of February. There's a little schematic, if you will, of what the future facility will look like on this particular slide as well. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into what we've been working on and what we're looking forward to continue to work on to get through this design bid phase. We've completed the design basis of design report in October. One of the things that we're also working on is a separate project with the existing facility, as it was certified by you all for that public emergency. We are in need to do an interim repair on the existing facility. This is not a full-blown rehabilitation of the existing facility, but what it is that it's an interim repair to allow us and afford us the availability of timing to complete the design and go directly into construction on the new facility. The construction of the new facility is expected to take a couple of years to complete. We're working as diligently as we can to try to compress that schedule as well. but with the knowledge of the existing facility's current status, we will continue to monitor it and provide an interim structural repair so that we have the assurances that we need to know that we can continue to operate the existing facility. This facility provides the water reclamation facility for all of the northern section of our county, which equates to over 50% of our overall service area within the Collier County Water and Sewer District. There are some other important highlight items that we want to talk with you about today relative to our schedule, and that is with respect to sole and single source equipment waiver requests. Within public utilities, we have a lot of specified equipment that is very critical and important for us within our wastewater treatment facilities. So we are looking at single and sole source equipment waivers over the next couple of months that will come back to the board for consideration. One of the other items that's been very challenging for Collier County Public Utilities and other capital improvement projects on behalf of the county is long lead times on materials and equipments that we need for these respective projects. So we continue to look at where those items are with our design team on where they fall in the critical path of our construction schedule. And currently in our analysis, we've identified several items that we may seek to procure prior to the overall bid of the construction contract. Right now, they currently are not on the critical path, but as we refine and lead into the 100% complete construction plans and issue that bid set, we'll be positioned better over the course of the next couple of months to determine whether or not we feel like we need to try to procure some of these long lead time items ahead of time to make sure that they stay off that critical path of the schedule, noting the importance of a continued compressed construction schedule as well. So the goal is to continue to work towards that 100% complete design package and issue our bid set by the end of February. We feel confident that we're going to be able to make that with the current design team. We're working on this project daily. It's been a fascinating team that we've put together in order to continue to fast track the design process. By doing that and getting the 100% design plans and the bid set out by the end of February, that will position us to have ample time to go through the procurement process and ultimately bring back a construction contract for consideration to the board at a meeting in May. So this is our update, and we're asking for the board for a recommendation to accept the project update, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
I have no questions. I'm going to call for a motion, and then I have a comment.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve this as presented. You know, today is Commissioner Taylor's and Commissioner Solis's last effective County Commission board meeting. Commissioner Saunders and Commissioner LaCastro and myself are here until 24, and I'm treating my last 2 years before my reelection as my last 2 years, because you just never know. I don't want to leave this seat not having critical infrastructure under a path of readiness. I don't want to read things to avoid the imminent, I think I read in here, reduce the risk of imminent failure of a critical infrastructure for our community. I want that done before I leave this seat in 24. I hope I don't leave the seat in 24. I'm planning on staying, assuming everything goes well. I am planning on running again. I'm not announcing my retirement by any stretch, but I don't want to read that. I want direction and priority put on our critical infrastructure first. Please.
Understood.
All right. Any other comments? It's been moved and seconded. We approve as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Same sign, same sound. So moved. I think you have another one, don't you, Matthew?
Two more.
Two more right in a row. Item 11C is a recommendation to award construction invitation to bid number 22-8019, Churchill Circle Water Main Replacement to Douglas N. Higgins, Inc. in the amount of $1,295,947 and authorize the chairman to sign the attached agreement. Mr. Matt McLean will present or answer questions.
Again, Matt McLean, for the record, with Public Utilities. There was a brief presentation that was included with the agenda item. Happy to answer any questions, or I can go through that agenda or that presentation, whatever the pleasure of the board is.
I'll call for a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve as presented. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Same sign, so moved.
You're going to have two more. Item 11D and 11E are companion items. This is a recommendation to award construction invitation to bid number 22-7965R, Golden Gate City Transmission Water Main Improvements Phase 2, to DBE Management LLC, doing business as DBE Utility Services, in the amount of $6,737,736, and authorize the chairman to sign the attached agreement. Its companion item is a recommendation to approve the selection committee's ranking and authorize staff to enter into contract negotiations with AIM Engineering and Surveying, Inc. related to the request for professional services number 22-8042 for CEI services for Golden Gate City Transmission Water Main Improvements, and bring a proposed agreement back for the board's consideration at a future meeting. Mr. Matt McLean, your Public Utilities Engineering Director, is here to answer questions or present on both items.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve as presented. As a matter of comment, I want to thank Commissioner Saunders for leading the charge and taking over that utility FGUA back in the day. You made a comment on the day we voted to buy that. It was much to the chagrin of some of the leadership of our community, that it was probably one of the most important acquisitions that we did as a seated board, and I can't concur more. This is the end round on that process. A large portion of the city of Golden Gate is still on septic and well, with health issues on proximity to septic systems and the like for the water, and this is the beginning of that process of conversion over to and providing for the health of the community.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate those comments. When I ran for office in 2016, one of my goals was to pay a lot of attention to the Golden Gate City community. And one of the big problems there was, as you mentioned, a lot of folks, most of the folks there were on wells and septic systems, with septic systems failing and with their water treatment systems not working particularly well, because these are rental properties and some of the landlords were not taking care of those facilities. And by acquiring that, and we were able to acquire it at no cost. That was the understanding that we had. I think we will be over the next several years, be able to bring good quality water service to that entire area, and as important, ultimately bring quality sewer service, get all those folks off of septic systems, because there are a couple thousand septic tanks in that area, and there's leachate going into the Golden Gate Canal, which ultimately gets into the Naples Bay and creates all sorts of problems. So I appreciate your comments, Mr. Chairman, and certainly appreciate the board's support of the acquisition of that utility system.
It was one of those flying under the radar things that we do in leadership that a lot of folks don't even realize while it's happening, and you stated it at that meeting, and I just want to thank you for going forward. All right, it's going moved and seconded that we accept and approve as presented. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Same sign, so moved.
Thank you.
Items 11F and 11G are also companion items. This is a recommendation to approve the award of invitation to bid number 21-7932 Corkscrew Road at Wildcat Drive to OHLA USA Inc. in the amount of $2,103,968.10. Authorize the chairman to sign the attached construction services agreement and approve the attached budget amendments. Its companion is a recommendation to approve and authorize the chairman to sign a locally funded agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation to provide a lump sum deposit in the amount of $105,557.32 to support the construction, engineering, inspection of the road roadway safety improvement on Corkscrew Road at Wildcat Drive, Project 60233, which is an FDOT local agency program project. Mr. Jay Ahmad, your Director of Transportation Engineering, is here to answer questions or present.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Jay Ahmad again. The item before you, I'll be happy to present. I have a presentation, or I can answer questions. I also included a PowerPoint presentation in the executive summary. So
it was already in our package.
I'll make a motion to approve. This is a great PowerPoint, and
Right.
thank you very much.
Both items,
Yes, yes.
F and G. It's been moved and seconded that we approve both items. Is this going to straighten out that death trap at the corner?
yes, sir. It's a 90-degree curve, and
We are. Yeah.
lots of crashes over there.
It's adeptly named.
Fatalities.
Well, we're going to save money in construction costs just replacing the signs that warn everybody that you're about to make a hard right. So, we have public comment.
Yes, sir. I have one registered comment. Ed Brantley.
You pick a side, Ed.
All right, that's good to go. Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Ed Brantley. I'm here today to encourage you to vote yes for agenda item 11F. I live right next to that deadly trap, the corner. I personally pulled out people from car wrecks there, so it's a very bad intersection. So this project is intended to improve public safety at the intersection of Corkscrew Road and Wildcat Drive. I've personally witnessed a dramatic increase in car accidents at this intersection during the last couple of decades, especially with the population growth.
Where do you live over there, Ed?
On the corner of Wildcat and Corkscrew.
Oh, yeah, you're right up there on the...
Yeah, so the cars come onto our property.
Sure, yep.
The road configuration is just an old design that was never intended for the traffic volumes and the population that we have today. So this project has been in the works for many years now. The Collier County staff have done a good job of researching, planning, and preparing the project for execution. I've reviewed the proposed plans, and I feel that it will greatly improve public safety, so I'm grateful that you guys are working on this. And I look forward to seeing this project go into construction soon. So thank you for your time.
Appreciate you coming today. Next time you can just call me and I'll save you a trip.
Thanks.
Hey, what? Commissioner Taylor made the motion. Commissioner LaCastro seconded it. With that, any further ado, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, same sound, so moved.
Item 11J is a recommendation to accept the annual business plan for Paradise Coast Sports Complex from Sports Facilities Management LLC. Ms. Marissa Baker, Sports Complex Manager, will begin the presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Marissa Baker, Manager for Paradise Coast Sports Complex with Collier County. Today, we're just here to share some insight with you about what we've been able to accomplish for the last year and the plans that we have for the upcoming fiscal year. Now, one of the things you guys asked, Commissioners, not too long ago was for more transparency and communication on what's going on at the sports complex. This is certainly part of that effort. Collier County entered into an agreement with Sports Facilities Management on November 12th of 2021, governing the management of the sports complex on behalf of Collier County. As a contract deliverable, Sports Facilities is required to submit and present an annual business plan that includes a year-end review, an outline of the budget, and the strategy for the upcoming fiscal year. With that, I will hand the presentation over to Jack Adams and Adrian Moses with Sports Facilities Management.
Good morning, Jack Adams with Sports Facilities Management.
How you doing, Jack?
Doing great. Nice to see you guys.
Are you? Good.
Just a little snapshot of the agenda that we want to cover. The financial performance. I want to talk a little bit about visits because we understand that the three things from the time we were hired that we were tasked to do was increase community usage, community visits, tourism dollars, and make the park more sustainable financially. And then we'll talk about 2023. So this is just an overhead of the progress on the park right now. And this is what it will look like when done. So the final revenue that we produced at the park for 2022 is $1,000,004. There's a gross profit, also called business income, of $375K positive there. The prior year end gross profit was a negative $112, so that's an improvement on that business income, which is the revenue minus the cost of goods, the direct cost of producing that revenue, an improvement of $487K. The park operating expenses were $911, so the net expense to Collier County was negative $535. Prior year, your net expense was $1,590,000, so it's an improvement of just over $1 million. So,
What do you account for that?
Superior
well,
management.
there was
I asked him.
superior management is a great answer. Thanks, whoever I
Do it-
paid
do a
20,
deep- do-
20
do
bucks
a-
to say that.
Do a deeper dive. What were the-
I'll definitely do that. You paid a management fee to the prior user of $350,000. We don't come with a management fee. We make money once you do, which is why we talk about the fields and getting those fields done so often, is because that's when we start getting paid as well, as you also get paid. So we have very symbiotic interest there. The other thing is the cost of goods were very different.
Okay.
There are a couple reasons for that, but I don't have intricate financials from our predecessors. I have sort of high level, but there appear to be a cost of delivery to those products that are maybe a little easier on us because we're just a bigger organization and can support that without having to burden this specific park with those costs. Those are costs borne at our home office.
And I remember those were positive things you had said in your initial proposal, and so it's good to see the result.
Proof's in the pudding.
Yeah.
This is what happened with visits. So although we were here 10 months out of the 12, you see an 87 to 88% year-to-date increase over park visits. That's all visits, so that includes community foot traffic, that includes the traffic for the events themselves. You can even see the little breakdowns, just the tiny numbers. It's the factory and the code.
So you're actually tracking where the folks are going when they come to the park in the different venues that are available there.
Yes. And specifically through transactions. So when we have a tournament, there's this amount of registrations for the tournament. We know when we have the factory that there's this amount of check-ins at the factory. At the Cove, we know how many transactions. So we just have different mechanisms for that. And the best is yet to come. So here's 2023. There's a pretty detailed strategy document that we submitted, but in short, we want to increase the local programming use. So we're going to book at a higher capacity, and we're going to meet and exceed the factory gym revenue target. You'll see the high-quality self-operated sports leagues win the park with our partnership. When we have our own programs, those are more profitable for the park than a program that is brought in and pays rent, because they then pay rent and then they make a profit and then they take that away. So we don't want to cannibalize or hurt a quality product that's already going on in Collier County, but there are plenty of things that can be done and that we can start these self-operated leagues, and that'll help make the park more self-sustaining. So this is part of our local programming strategy. The economic impact strategy is to book a variety of tournament events and to host major sporting events. In December of 2023, we anticipate a 192-team week-long event that'll be the highest, the largest sporting event and the highest hotel use in the park's history. That would be a lot more impressive when the park is 20 years old, but we're still saying it.
It's 2 years old, so.
It's a huge event, even for our venues, even around the country. That's a really, really big one, and we're excited about it. For local exposure for community and cultural events, we are targeting doing a cultural event per quarter, and fall fest, concert, something, the arts, something that isn't just a direct sports. And then, and those are major events, and then monthly cultural events of some type. And we've done these throughout this year, and you can see some cute little pictures there so far, but more to come. And then on the financial targets, we're going to do a better job of converting the ancillary revenue from events. So whenever an event comes, there's also food and beverage. We've just got a food truck started that's been real productive. There's some other things we've done that have been successful, and we have more to bring online. Sponsorships that are in the works. We've seen one sponsorship so far. There are more behind that, and we expect that to keep improving. And then just the operational economy. When we have more fields, we don't have more, we have only incremental more G&A cost. You'll have a few more salaries with more fields, but generally speaking, most of the expenses are already done. So we only have that business profit. And so with those extra fields, that's how we're going to cover that remaining gap and get to profitability, which is exciting for all of us, I assure you. So the current budget that we've submitted and has been approved is for $1.3 million in revenue and a venue profit of -$169,000. That could change, since we understand that there's some potential change to the dates that the fields come online. So the quicker those fields come online, the better that number gets. Assuming that all of the fields are online, we have just put the little 2024 revenue and venue profit number there for you. That still escalates. So when we have an event for the first time, teams have a great time, and then they come back and there are more teams. So that event gets bigger year over year. So we need to get that event in there in the first place, and then we want to watch it grow. So the sooner that happens, the quicker that hockey stick happens.
There you are.
Anything to add? The gentleman that's been leading our effort right behind me has nothing to add, but deserves the credit. I also just want to say thank you, just because I have this moment where at the end of a year, I really appreciate Dan Rodriguez. I appreciate all the county management, Marissa Baker. We have really enjoyed working with you over the last year. We've got nothing but support. You are premier and awesome partners, and I just appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Jack. I have Commissioner LaCastro's gonna come at you now.
No, not come at you. How often are you scheduled in 2023 to come before us quarterly? I mean, I'd like to get and if it's not in this forum, I'd like to be sent, hey, in the first quarter of 2023, how's the algorithm looking? Are you on track to still lose $169,000, or we had a really good spring, or you made some changes? So I think this is such a big venue, and we've invested so much in it. I don't, and I'm sure it's not your plan, but I don't want to be surprised in December of 2023 to get your 2023, financials, and I'm sure that's not your plan. But I don't know, Amy. I mean, quarterly, are they will be on the agenda to brief us, because what you just briefed was great. This was the 50,000-foot view. It was, hey, here's where the numbers are, and I just think it's important for not only us. I mean, you can meet with us anytime, but one of the reasons why we have this meeting is we're going on the record for citizens to see, where we're successful and that we're not asleep at the wheel. I, for one, would love to see something like this as a minimum on a quarterly basis to see if we're tracking as we get to the end of the year, and if these numbers are sort of, matching, we get a good business presentation, at least quarterly. So I don't know, just a thought.
Commissioner, very good question. For the record, Dan Rodriguez, your Deputy County Manager. Contractually, they're required to come back annually.
Okay.
However, if the county manager and the board prefer a earlier update on a quarterly basis or biannual, certainly accommodate.
Or quarterly if we ask him not.
Yeah.
I'm sure he can whip up something for us once a quarter.
We sure can. We do a monthly review with the county on our financials, and we also present to the TDC monthly. It's not a formal presentation like this one, but those numbers are going in on a regular basis. So we're already producing.
This is a good formal, time to take what you've been presenting in smaller little groups. And I personally think you're on a great trajectory, so it's a good story to tell. So if the contract says once a year, I'd be fighting to get onto the podium here every quarter and saying, you know, hey, we're holding our own during a tough economic time, or we came up with some great ideas. And then also, too, it gives us a chance to maybe brainstorm some things and in a public forum say, you know, there's a couple of ideas that I've heard from citizens or from our constituents. So I just, you know, I propose it as a very beneficial idea, you know, on a quarterly basis to do something formal like this in this type of format, which was, hey, here's the money, here was our projected numbers. We missed it, or we hit it, or we exceeded it, and then throughout the year, throughout each month, I'm sure there's going to be new things that come to you. I'd love to see a slide that says, hey, we got a call that in August we actually are going to have a bigger event than in December. It totally dropped in our lap. I mean, this would be the forum, you know, to do it. So, but I appreciate this presentation. It shows us heading in a much more positive direction with a lot more meat on the bone, which is what that's why we hired you all. And so you know, like Commissioner McDaniel said, the proof is starting to show. So don't miss the opportunity to continue to tell us the situation at the sports complex and the financial numbers and the attendance numbers, things like that. Thank you.
While you're there, make a motion.
Yeah. So I make a motion, we approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve as presented. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, so moved. Thank you, Jack. And Marissa. And Adam? Adrian. Forgive me.
Are we still working on the Foo Fighters concert sometime?
We're gonna name it the Andy Solis Food Fighters concert.
Well, it's not the Food Fighters.
The leader is.
Gosh, what year were you born?
Well, I don't know.
Foo Fighters.
Apparently not this century.
He said Food Fighters. Did you get that on record, Terry?
She wrote it down.
It's a new food truck band, the Food Fighters.
All right, let's go. All right.
Item 11K is a recommendation to accept an update from Football University, an entity under the football division of Three Step Sports LLC. Ms. Marissa Baker, Sports Complex Manager, will begin the presentation.
Hello again. Once again, Marissa Baker, Sports Complex Manager. So just here to introduce Steve Quinn, who's the managing partner for FBU. Collier County has an agreement with Football University for them to bring down their two major events annually, one being the National Championship and the other being the Top Gun Showcase. You know, we didn't mention it in the last presentation, but that major event that we were talking about is the AYF, American Youth Football National Championships. And we attribute a lot of our ability to get an event like that to our partnership with FBU because they have really paved the way for football at Paradise Coast Sports Complex. That being said, Steve is going to present and outline the benefits of this partnership to Collier County.
For the record, my name is Steve Quinn, Managing Partner for Football University. I'm just going to go off of this one pager that I think is up there. I can't see it from here, but I have my notes
You
here.
want my glasses?
What's that? Can I use them?
Yeah, sure.
No, I'm good. Thank you. Someone once told me, be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. So here we go. All right. So I know you guys got a lot going on today. And but FBU, for some of you, and I know I talked to Andy a couple of weeks ago, is the single biggest middle school football tournament in the country. We do 3 different events here. We do a Freshman All-American Bowl, which is 70 of the top freshman athletes in the country. That'll be here in about 6 weeks. December 20th, there'll be probably 3,500 people in the stands. I know Penny was out last year, and a couple of you also were out last year. Some of these athletes, they're freshmen in high school, already have multiple Power 5 offers, multiple Division I offers, and they're freshmen in high school. I know our offensive line last year averaged 6'3", 290 as freshmen. So that's our freshman game. We have a Football University National Championship Tournament, which is also going to be here during that time. That's the top 10U, 10 and under, and then 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade teams that will advance from regional tournaments during that time. That's December 16th and 20th. And then in July, as Penny had mentioned, is our Top Gun event. Somehow we end up getting 1,600 kids here in 95-degree weather, and we skirt the rain and the thunderstorms every day, and we put on a Top Gun event with the top 1,600 kids and their families in July every year. We really consider ourselves kind of the marketing arm of the Paradise Coast. Last year we had nearly 10,000 room nights. We had over 15,000 spectators here with those 3 events. And really everything is kind of derived from what we call hashtag Path to Naples or Paradise Coast. And just to kind of go off on that a little bit, starting in March every year, we do a showcase across 39 cities across the country. So think of Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. That's what we do for football. We pack 2 trucks with football equipment. We send 1 truck east of Texas, 1 truck west of Texas, and in 39 cities, we bring in current and former NFL coaches and players, and they coach up kids for 2 days from 5th grade through 11th grade. And so the top 40% of those athletes get invited. They get an invite like this that says Path to Naples. We call it the golden ticket with the logo on the back, and they take pictures at the camps. And they get invited to Naples, Florida, to our Top Gun event in July. And so that's our camp series, those 39 cities all culminating in July with our Top Gun event. Our tournament that's coming up here in December, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, will actually be in 8 regional sites. And in those 8 regional sites, there'll be 10 U teams, 6th grade teams, 7th grade teams, and 8th grade teams. So from Seattle to Miami, from Rhode Island to Los Angeles, from Indiana to Texas, there'll be 8 regional sites going on, and the winners will advance to Naples, Florida to play for a national championship. And all part of that marketing is Path to Naples and Paradise Coast. So it really is a year-round marketing that we're doing for Collier County. I think 3 years ago when the sports park was first getting built, we were kind of that arm that helped people learn about it and kind of know that it was down here. Then we started putting these jerseys on all the kids, which has the logo of the Paradise Coast on there. On the back, it has Southwest Florida. This is last year's jersey, but this year's jersey will have Path to Naples on the collar. So all the kids, there's about 7,000 kids that'll be wearing that jersey. So it's kind of neat when I go out to LA and I go out to a practice and somebody from LA is wearing a jersey with the logo of Southwest Florida on that. So we're marketing the facility and Naples year round. Being a football company, it's amazing our social media presence, and it's second to none when it comes to that. So this year currently, and I'm not sure how much you know about TikTok and Instagram and Twitter, but that's where all the kids live. And this year so far, we've had 130 million, that's 130 million views of our different videos that we put out. One TikTok video has over 5 million views of one of the athletes jumping over another athlete in the freshman game here in Naples this past year. So we judge a lot of what we do by our social media. And so we're projecting to do about 200 million views with everything that is on those social media posts as Paradise Coast and Path to Naples. Also, all the kids will get the golden tickets, the jerseys. So everywhere across the country, we're marketing the Path to Naples. The one big thing that I didn't get an opportunity to talk too much about when I was at the TDC meeting is our partnership with the All-American Bowl on NBC, which used to be the U.S. Army All-American Bowl. That is the biggest high school All-American game in the country. It's where all the 5-star athletes get an opportunity to play. They come to San Antonio the first week in January, and they play in an East versus West format in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. Working with Paul and his team and Jack before that, we've actually worked out 2 30-second commercials that are actually on NBC during that time that talk about, and obviously it's a commercial about the Paradise Coast. And so that's on NBC last year. 3.2 million people watched that game. So it's another great advertisement for the Paradise Coast. On a side note, this year we've actually invited 3 local players to play in that game. Would they be invited on their own merit? They're good football players. One is from First Baptist. He's committed to Clemson. One is from 2 from Naples High School. One is committed to Cincinnati. The other one to Arkansas. But because of our relationship with Collier County, we try to get 1 or 2 players to play in that high school game every year. And it's obviously risen their stock, and they've gotten more offers, and which is great for them as well. But those 3 players will play in those games, as well as we've invited over 50 players to participate in our National Combine in San Antonio as well. We're also committed to the growth of the tourism here in Collier County. Part of our agreement with Collier County is on top of the events that we bring here, football university events, we need to bring 4 organic events to Collier County. At the end of this year, we'll have our 4th organic event, which is a lacrosse event that's going to be coming, I believe, with about 60 teams. On top of that, we've also referred an additional 14 either partnered or referred events to the sports complex that we've actually worked with Adrian and his crew on referring those events over there, football and other events. And then there's also a hockey event, a field hockey event, I believe that Adrian's working on with 120 teams and over 700 coaches that are going to be coming here in January of 2024. So for those of you that don't know me, I think I've been up here a few times. I'm a 25-year vet of Collier County, back and forth a few times, so I'm really woven into the fabric of this community, especially on the sports end. So one of the things I did when I decided to take on this job 13 years ago and move my family up to New Jersey, not once but twice, we moved back and forth, was that I was going to give back to Collier County and the kids here. And the platform that I've been giving on a personal level has been able to help out hundreds of kids go on and play football and use football as a vehicle for an education because of what we do here in Collier County. And so I appreciate you allowing me to do that. There's nothing better than for me to walk into the mall on a Saturday afternoon and see kids that I coached when they were 4 and 5 years old, and they've gone on and finished their careers, and they come up to me and say thank you. And so I will continue that venture for as long as I can, and I encourage you guys to come out on December 17th as our opening ceremony. We'll probably have about 4,000 people out there, and then on December 20th is the Freshman All-American Bowl, and we'll pack the stadium as well at that time. So appreciate you guys being part of that. Hope you guys come out, and I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Steve. Commissioner LaCastro.
So part of the executive summary, Steve, obviously, the big bullet that jumps out at you is it says Collier County agrees to pay FBU a sponsorship fee in the sum of $500,000, for each year for 2 events. So it's $500,000. Obviously, your organization then has a requirement to turn in reports, I would guess, to the clerk of courts of how that money is being spent, where it went, and et cetera. Correct?
Sure.
So all I would say is in the past, we've had some organizations that have gotten some pretty big checks out of the county. I won't name who they are, but they know who they are. Crystal certainly knows who they are, who got great investment out of us, but their reports were really thin. Don't let that happen here. You've got a great, and I'm not saying you are, but just as a reminder, that's the bread and butter where we can read something and say, wow, that was a $500,000 investment that was well worth it. And, you're not just doing great things with the kids, but you're crossing the T's and dotting the I's when it comes to accounting and the requirement the county has to get a detailed report on where this money went. I mean, the bottom line is if you only spend $450,000, I expect you to write a check for the money that's remaining and give it back to the county because you didn't need it. So sometimes we see these fees and they're just big flat fees. We need $500,000. So I can tell you, I for one am going to be looking for that report, and you could really earn yourself a lot of positive vibes from us when we see that not only do you have a great sporting team, but you also have a great accounting team. And you're also spending that money judiciously. So it's not a gift. It's not, hey, we got $500,000. Let's see, let's buy fur coats for everybody. And I say that, sort of not literally, but there are times, just as I was saying to the folks that are managing the sports complex, where, you should be looking for ways where you can spend that money wisely, not waste it. And then also in the report prove to us that it was worth the investment. And so I guess we'll be looking for those reports, over 2023. Those are important documents that just don't get filed in a file cabinet. We have, staff and the commissioners here that look at those very closely. So, I just mentioned that to you that, finish the job after all these events are done and document so that we know that this is indeed a good investment and it wasn't just a great thing for the kids, but financially it was money well spent, and we know where you spent it. You know?
Yes, sir. No, you,
Fair enough?
Yes, sir. You can rest assured that'll be done.
Thank you, sir.
And while you're going, why don't you make a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve and accept the FBU's presentation. Any other discussion? Let me call for the vote. We haven't voted yet.
I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, so moved.
Am I good?
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you, sir.
All right. It
Well, that
is.
remains to be seen. Okay,
Yeah,
you're
yeah, I
not
was
done.
just going to say, that's a judgment call for a later date. I don't want to rush this afternoon. Let's go ahead and take our lunch break and come back at 1:03.
Okay.
How about
thank you.
that?
Absolutely.